No, Hora. No, not yet. Do you want to do that next week? We can do that next week. I'd be down for that next week. But welcome in, guys. Happy Thursday. How is everybody's Thursday going? You did it, chat. You've almost made it through the week. There's only one more day. Oh, good Lord. Oh, good Lord, Sebas. Oh, good Lord. Why are you sucking everything in? Why are we Kirbying? Someone say my day. My day. Thorgrim Day. Thor's Day. But welcome in, guys. Where did my music go? I lowered it. Okay, I lowered it so quiet I couldn't hear it at all. I'm coping. Why are we coping? Oh, never mind. I know why we're coping. Never mind. Had to use my carnival senses. Carnival senses? What do you mean? What do you mean carnival senses? Are we seething? Are we seething and coping? I don't think I have that sound bit set up. Damn it. Damn it. But welcome in, guys. I'm extremely indecisive on what we're going to do today. So we do have options. Most of it is either mystery or murder.
Making a mother of all omelets here, Jack. Can't bread over every egg.
American Spirit? Oh, good Lord. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a fucking like, oh God. What if there was like a section of like a sequel to Metal Gear Revengeance that was like basically played like Final Fantasy and fucking Armstrong was the summon? Eat all the Aether? Aether? There's no Aether here. I've used all of it. How do you think I made this place in the first place? Had to make something out of nothing, and that nothing is Aether. Speaking of Ordain, I did a meme. Wait, did you do a meme on Ordain already? Already? It's been 8 minutes, and I've been talking for like 2, maybe 1, maybe a whole minute. Maybe I've been here a whole minute even. Schmello, hi Grins. Hi Melissa, how are you doing? You didn't get bitten by a radioactive ringleader again, did you, Sunstar? Oh my God. Listen, just because I like to go play with the demon core and then go bite people doesn't mean shit. And plus, nibbling on people is fun. But hold on a second. I still have like the sniffles, so I will be, unfortunately, I will still be like muting and doing the type shit. But y'all shouldn't hear it too often aside from that really over-exaggerated example. You lost your voice? Okay. Nah, it's probably fine. It's Shark. Shark. Where did you last see it? Yeah, that's a good question. Did you like leave it in the fridge or did you like forget it in the sock drawer or something? Have you considered that? I'm just coughing a lot of salt. That makes sense. I still have so many fucking cough drops around me that I've been like slowly taking. Speaking of which, come here. Dark stuff. Yeah, dark stuff. So we have a couple options. We are either going to watch more than likely multiple videos of killer moments, aka probably something like Coffee House Crime or something, or I have a crazy long video on the railway murders of Victorian England. It is a very long video, and if we watch it, we will probably only watch that one video. But it's cool now because I went to the store and because I can't talk to anyone, I felt super dark and edgy. Oh my God. I also do have one that keeps showing up in my feed called The Enduring Mystery of Room 1046. But I have no idea what this is. But I scrolled through it really quick and it looks like it has a lot of production put into it. Like the creator made essentially like, what was it? Essentially did like mock-ups of like the scenes themselves in 3D. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Hi, Malik. How are you doing? Took Grins' voice. I give it back later. Gonna annoy the Why do you keep going to annoy the SCP Foundation? The carnival has infected my brainwaves. Carnival senses wake me up just at showtime. Really saved my first. This felt extremely slow. Cursed just waking up. Aw, well, good morning, Good morning, Sunstar. Were you sleeping in today? Oh my goodness, I slept in today too. What the fuck is the goblin hypothesis? I'm gonna save that for later. I'll watch that on my own. It's funny too, they use a World of Warcraft goblin for the thumbnail. I keep accidentally opening doors into their sites. Ah. It's like you're going to the bathroom, you open the door, and it's just like an office hallway, and you're like, what the fuck? This is why I made the meme where Zayden, you do this? All right, let me see. Let me see. Where's the meme? Where's our memes post? There it is. Wait, how long ago was it? Yeah, I can't find it in here. I don't know where you put the meme. I may just be blind, or I saw it a long time ago. The goblin hypothesis, I think that means they hypothesized goblin these. Yeah, you do get shot. You do in fact get shot. I should stop getting first. I think you should. I think you should. Wait. Funny, that's how I found the Dark Carnival? Wait, which part? The like just opening a door? That makes sense. That makes sense. Hey! Would you like a distraction? Because one of the videos I have today is a 2-hour video on Victorian England's most gruesome railway murders. I'm Faye and I like distractions. Hi, Faye. Or do it like it's fucking, what is it, like Alcoholics Anonymous? Hi, Faye. The carnival music in Distance pissed me off enough to investigate is how I found it. That makes sense. That makes sense. I have some energy. You don't have to if you don't want to, Faye. Like, just because you have some energy doesn't mean you have to absolutely spend it. It's okay. Also, you should go check out Fashion Wife. She's really close to hitting partner. I said I want to? Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, I do. No, Faye, that's not how that works. It's whenever like somebody's playing like a TTRPG or something and they're like, health is a resource and I'm going to spend it. Okay, no cyberpunk song. If you guys want to know how to slay, go and watch some Faye. Correct. You didn't even have to spell it like that. You could have left it the same and it still would have fit. Until I am stopped, I will continue to proceed in this manner. Oh my God. Where's Sai? What is Sai doing? Sai's probably working on something. Double checks to see if Sai's live. According to Twitch's recommended, the answer is no. Oh, she got distracted by the Spider-Man. Oh, Spider-Man! Not the Spider-Man! He's a goddamn menace. I keep forgetting Sai has a PlayStation. I'm always really stupid and I'm like, I live under the assumption that everybody only has a PC until somebody's like, nah, I'm hooked up to like my PlayStation or my Switch or something. They're like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. The legally acquired PS5 TM. Listen, that's fine. Can I pay like a rental fee in the future to use it if I buy games for it? I will pay the rental fee. Just in case there's PS5 exclusives that come out in the future. Also, wait, that reminds me. Did anybody see the PlayStation, what was it called? The PlayStation preview or whatever it is? You act like you could give either of us money? Who said anything about money? Me makes it like a big meal thing on like the kitchen island and y'all like walk in, it's like, all right, what do you want? I want the PlayStation for tomorrow night. We simply will not take it. Ah, damn it. Listen, it's fine. It's fine. The carnival doesn't have enough PS5s. We need to go hunting. Listen, most of the PS5s are for rent for guests. They're not for me. Food, my one weakness. Listen, what else is there to life than going from meal to meal and enjoying every single one of them? I have a Steam Deck. Steam Deck doesn't count as a separate console because it's pretty much just like mobile PC gaming. Got opponents from across the multiverse? Correct. Yeah, there is a new Digimon game. Wait, I forget. Did that Digimon game say that there was only going to be Digimon Time Strangler? Go to the ends. Oh. Okay, no, it's going to be on Steam. Okay, it's going to be on Steam. That's good. I still haven't even finished all the way through the Cyber Sleuth, like, I did the main story. I didn't do like the DLC one yet. I haven't finished the DLC one. Teaser for the Lies of P DLC, looking nice. Really? Wait. I have not seen that. Hold on. DLC. Overture. Okay, hold on. Hold your horses. Hold your horses. Oh, I clicked the wrong thing. I was clicking the wrong model to move myself. Shut up, music. I want to see what the DLC is going to be about. Turn down just a little bit. Nog. Foxes.
How can it be winter all of a sudden?
I'm sorry. You want to know the year?
Carnival!
What a pleasure to meet a stalker worthy of the name. It's been far, far too long.
My
Kitty!
forever friend, help me to hold your hand and dance.
Okay.
You're not the puppet I was expecting. Who are you?
Oh.
She was looking
Oh.
for someone.
Legendary. She stepped up only because
You're not the puppet I was expecting.
too many stalkers will lust to that evil.
Okay, called for help apparently. That's what it looked like at least. Ooh, Bo. Beeps! A very large puppet that looks like Atlas, basically. Why was it in a prison?
All that matters. Nothing else comes close. Not even
What the fuck was that?
Sorrow will be late.
What the fuck is that?
Not again.
Wait, does the like the gameplay style that feels so much more like a regular RPG than like a Souls-like? Orphan of Kos, Big Brother over there. Okay, hold on. Let's go back to like about here. I think was where it started showing off like combat
She stepped
stuff.
up only because no one else could. Too many stalkers will lust to
Like
that
he
evil.
calls for help. Bow, which I don't think there's been a bow in the game before. Look at this dude. Okay, that's dual claws of some kind.
Whatever it takes.
Broadsword.
Your survival
Oh, it's a
is
gunblade.
all that matters.
And there's whatever the fuck that is, because holy shit.
I swear I will be late.
And then you get every MOBA's first assassin character. Yeah. It kind of seems like hack and slash at that point, but I don't think it would make sense to borderline redo the combat style. Hold on, let me go back to, I want to see that orb part again, which is like here.
Your survival.
Hold on. Okay, that's not us. That's not us. P is right there blocking with a sword. This is the lady from... Where is she?
You're not the puppet I was expecting.
Right here. This is her. So this is her fight. Okay. That would have been cool if that was our attack. That's a very cool looking attack. But no, it's her right here because you go like here. Yeah, there she is on the left and the puppet was behind us. So there's P. You can see like the top of his head on the right there. He dodges back. Actually, it looks like he takes a hit. Oh no, that's the block, I think. And then you can see the puppet on the left. But God, gee, hold on. Go back to like this. Just look at how it transitioned. Look, Marin, it's you but blue. Really? Like this looks so good in slow motion. I'm over here I'm spamming my way through the frames. That's so cool. That's so cool.
Nothing else comes close, not even my life. I swear I won't be late.
Wait, that's a hilarious emote. Did you see it? Did you see it? All right. Coco, why are you moping? Why are you moping? I just looked over and she's just sitting on the other side of the room staring at the wall. What? Do you want out? Is that what this is? Do you want to go outside? I think she wants to go outside, but we will wait on that. We will wait. We'll go back to the chatting screen. That's cool. Does anybody know what else came out on the PlayStation? Here, let me see real quick if I can. PlayStation Direct, I think is what it was called. State of Play, that's what it's called. 5 hours? That can't be right. That can't be right. Oh, it's literally it's the stream and they started the stream 3 hours early. Okay. Shinobi Art of Vengeance. Digimon Time Stranglers. Okay, hold on. Chat, do we want to do this first? Like a midnight walk, Marin 100%, 1000% think you'll love it. It was 45 minutes. Okay, here, hold on. I think there's a cut version. Yeah, February 12th. You know what, chat? This is what we're doing the first hour. Fuck it. Fuck it, baby. We ball. I'm gonna go pop into a Discord.
Connected.
I had no idea just how big the world is.
Okay. We'll do this and then we'll go into dark shit because I want to know what's coming. Because almost every PlayStation game is just going to be fucking probably coming to PC. Yeah, I'm Monster Hunter. Y'all already bought the game for me and I already have it ready to go. So as soon as it releases, we'll be playing the shit out of this game. I'm so excited. Boob! Stellar Blade is coming to PC. Who cares? I did a deep dive on the Stellar Blade lore already, and it is not. It's almost entirely what's the word? It's almost 1-for-1 for Nier Automata. Its lore is so identical, but the character is so goddamn boring. It's a funny creature seeker game. Yeah, funny creature seeker game. Yeah, there's Arkfeld that beat the absolute shit out of me repeatedly. God, wait, these fights look gigantic. Jesus. Ooh. Nier Automata? Yes. No. No. Oh, wow. We get the bubble dragon back. Yay. Oh. Pre-order bonus. Meh. Ooh. Oh, wait, that's a PlayStation Store bonus.
ワイルズプロデューサーの辻本です。無料タイトルアップデート第1弾の追加
No, I am here for game.
玉三つが決定いたしました。デート計画については追ってお知らせしますので。
Oh wow, they're releasing stuff really quick. So we're gonna get another monster in. We're getting one in spring, and then we get another one in fucking summer. Nice.
皆様に楽しんでいただけることを心よりお待ち
New
しております。
outfits for the carnival crew with pre-orders. Give me clown outfit. Give me like a gestury clown outfit, and that's the fucking layered armor I will wear through the entire game. Return of the Bubbly Boys. Sega.
Forged to unleash vengeance.
Oh, this is the Shinobi one that I saw the in thing for.
More than a weapon.
Okay.
It's the soul of a shinobi.
Oh, hand-drawn side scroller. Okay. Oh, this is pretty cool. It's not something I'm like always. Oh.
No obstacle can stand in their
I'm always into, but it looks really cool.
soaring where others
Picking up my lung drugs, I bought a Hawaiian style bluey shirt. Oh, wait, bluey shirt. Bluey.
striking with lethal precision.
Wait, the ninja goes Super Saiyan?
Each weapon
Oh.
a tool. Each tool a part of the whole. This is the master of the shinobi.
I can barely understand this person. I need captions. I don't know if there's actually going to be captions for these.
The legend continues.
Continues. Wait, there's a game before this one? It looks good. This character looks clean as shit. Coming August 29th. Okay. No. Oh, race. Oh. No. Yes! It's another Sonic racing game. Let's go. Oh, I need another fucking, what is it? The Waves? Not the Waves. Sonic. It's not Gravity. It was the one where you were basically on the boards. Who remembers the Sonic racing game that was on like the game? Also, merch. That was on like, was it the GameCube or was it the Wii? Oh? Can you force change the track or does the track change on its own? Oh. I take it back. I take it back. I think they're giving me everything I want. I saw that board. Please tell me we get to pick the vehicles. Please tell me I can choose to be on like a board. Hi, Hectic. Win or Carnival Racers? I mean, the closest thing we have right now is, what was it? The board. The board! I'm sorry, chat. I missed that game. What was that game called? Did anybody use Riders? Yeah, Sonic Riders. I think there was 2 games though, wasn't there? No. This is PlayStation Direct. Closed network test February 21st. Ooh. Oh. Oh. Strong start. Strong start.
Break free.
Oh, this is the Digimon game.
Laws that govern reality. To turn the
This is the Digimon trailer. I saw this.
again.
What'd it do? We're using the first hour to go over the PlayStation Direct because I am a goofball and I will probably still find a way to side tangent during these trailers. Please just be an RPG. Please just be a JRPG. I'm begging you. I'm begging you. Digimon, digital monsters.
Gods, heroes, and monsters of bygone eras. The anomalies. Known as Digimon.
I have several questions about what that entails, that there was a person inside that Digi-Egg. Hi, Coco. You can ride them? Okay. Okay.
Seize the future. Together.
Ah, Coco. All right, hold on, chat. I'm gonna be right back. Coco really wants to go out, so I'll be back in a minute.
大家好，我是《输入之魂》的创作者杨斌。从一名独立开发者到今天与 PlayStation 携手，这一路走来已历经10年。《输入之魂》结合了流畅爽快的战斗体验与丰富多样的世界设计。玩家将在各具风格的场景中探索。
Okay, face divinities, fascinating characters, gradually uncover an engaging story. Okay.
与有趣的角色互动，逐步揭开精彩的故事。接下来，
Does this mean I can ride Angemon asking for a friend for science?
发布日期。
Huh? I bet she'll just carry you. Because I don't know if y'all remember, but Angemon's like actual height is something like 10 plus feet tall.
Where monsters invade our world.
Oh?
A powerful being falls from the sky.
Oh no, not an isekai.
They might vanquish the invaders. The dream ends. Is this really just a dream?
Oh.
My only hope lies with you.
Oh no, not an edgy game. Carry me bridal style. I love Dianamon.
Come, Kaiser. We will travel across worlds.
Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear the name? Kaiser? It's Caesar. It's definitely a Japanese game because that's the Japanese fucking pronunciation of Caesar.
Leap through dimensions.
No, I don't think this is Final Fantasy at all. I think this is a separate game. I don't think this said it was Square Enix either. Ma'am?
I see great power within you. A destiny.
Oh, it could be.
Fulfilled.
Ooh, snazzy. Okay.
The blade in your hand.
Okay, it's giving, what's the word? Asura's Wrath, that's what I'm thinking of. The parrying the giant fist. And then here comes that giant fist! Block.
You never wanted to be a hero.
Forspoken's edgier cousin.
You must.
It looks good.
Then give me your power.
But... Oh. Lost soul aside. Oh wait, did somebody say that earlier? Yay, more isekai games, like we needed more. One is too many. One is too many. Even though apparently the next Kingdom Hearts is supposed to be.
We've got several updates today from partners around the world, starting with news from the Like a Dragon series.
Oh?
First up, a playable demo of Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii arrives on PS5 this Friday.
Oh my god.
Players could try out 2 battle styles, including Goro Majima's new Sea Dog style, as well as engage in naval battles at the Pirates Coliseum.
I can't believe Like a Dragon is gonna have better naval combat than Skull and Bones.
Sega
Wait, that's like 4 PS4 too? Amazing.
A new crossover DLC coming to Dave the...
God damn it, Dave and Divers, how many fucking crossovers can you have? No way.
Ichiban Kasuga and other Like a Dragon characters team up to thwart a gang of troublemakers in classic beat-em-up style, all while perfecting new recipes at Bancho's Sushi. Dave the Diver Ichiban's Holiday arrives this April on PS5 and PS4.
Okay, that's cool.
The Splitgate 2 alpha begins February 27th on PS5.
Oh, Splitgate's coming back. Okay.
Use portals and futuristic physics to dominate the arena, and play a new 24-player mode where 3 teams compete on a massive map.
No, I just want Unreal Tournament again. Give me a new
Ladies and
Unreal
gentlemen,
Tournament.
My name is Paul Heyman.
Ugh.
I'm here to give you an exclusive first
I don't know how this man has looked the same for the last 30 years.
2K franchise.
It's going to be the same.
The Island.
Sure.
With the Island, players enter an online environment filled with WWE-themed landmarks,
God.
quests, live events.
Oh, good lord. Everybody saw the fucking lobby system for that Street Fighter had, and we're like, we can do that for WWE.
Island also offers deep customization, giving players the chance to personalize their My
Oh, Christ.
Superstars like never before.
Okay, just listen. As long as they don't have character sliders, as long as there's not character sliders, I'm sure it'll be fine. They're trying to be luchadors without being luchadors? Correct. I mean, you can make a luchador character, probably no problem.
To the island.
Okay. Now you can beat up Logan Paul? You probably can. Right? Maybe? Eh.
Sup? I'm Randy from Gearbox. I'm Randy from Gearbox, and you know why we're here. We're here for
Fuck
you.
off,
Are you
Pitchford.
ready? It's 2025, and every day we are getting closer to the
Sales
launch
skyrocket
of
at this
Borderlands
news.
4.
Wait, sales of what exactly? Skip! No, I want to know what it's about at least. Ooh. Yeah, this has the board. Ooh. Those axes? Okay. Just fall in the water and die. Good song. I like the song though. Whoa. Okay. But like, how many of these are different characters? That person, is one of them a necromancer? Do we get like a necromancer like character? I saw that shit. Is the playable Psycho coming back? Are we gonna get the weird little like internal like, tell her how you're feeling?
Now, Borderlands 4 is going to break free for a special state of play this spring, focused exclusively on Borderlands 4. And we're diving deep, you guys. Join us.
Wait, Borderlands is getting its own state of play?
Combat, Vault Hunters, action skills,
I'm the conductor of the poop train? Are you talking about Randy Pitchford?
You can even count all on
What is going on with his hair? He looks like me whenever I take my headphones off since I've cut my hair.
Well, what is it? Don't hold out.
It's the headphone hair.
I'll feed you, baby bird. Who wants a launch date?
Ugh,
Borderlands 4?
just kiss already, Jesus.
Well, Borderlands 4 launches worldwide
Yeah, Krieger.
for everyone on September 23rd.
And then it's just
2025. We got work to do. See you in spring.
What the fuck? Oh no. Oh, I remember this one.
Look, I don't mean to be rude, but I really don't do small talk. Nice to meet you too.
Oh god. We're gonna play writers. Both of these characters are writers.
So you want to go through more of your crazy stories?
My crazy stories. But how are we supposed to get out of here if we don't start to trust each other?
I don't need your trust.
Well,
This feels like a teenager's book.
I took inspiration for this story from when me and my
The armors and stuff even look like it. The armors make me think of like Spy Kids 3D.
I base the story around my dad. All I can do is write this silly story. Oh, we'll face it together. We got this.
But how and why are they inside their stories?
Follow my lead. Are you for real, Zoe?
It's lesbian It Takes Two, which is both fantasy and sci-fi. Yeah, like.
What now?
Okay, cyberpunk.
I did not sign up for this. Brace yourself, Zoe.
And then something that looks like the goofiest fucking like sky trooper or space trooper. Fuck. Centipede. I don't know. It just. It feels like it's trying to be too many things all at once. Yes. Yes. Oh my God, are we finally getting the 2047 one? Where'd my chapstick go? I just threw it. Please, finally. I've been waiting years for this. It is. Oh my God. Because they spoiled this in the last Supermassive game, the House of Ashes. It's in like one of the preview totems.
What is that?
Like it's in one of the preview totems. So it's been in production for like years.
One way and my mind's going another.
Somebody watched Ready Player One after playing It Takes Two? Yeah, pretty much.
Organism. It still doesn't feel real sometimes.
Never forget why you started.
Listen, Supermassive, you already have my money, okay?
Lord have mercy.
You already have my money. You don't need to fight for it.
Williams knows more about this substance than he's letting on.
Oh God, is it gonna be like a Dead Space story?
It can manipulate its physical appearance. It's changing its cellular structure. It's replicating the human form. It's replacing us.
Oh God, we're getting Dead Space, but also The Thing.
But if you're still out there, you deserve the truth.
Okay. I'm opening the airlock and breaking the panel. Jacob is the... There it is. 2082. Or 820. Okay, 820. Oh, I think they've changed the name since before. Interesting. Steel Wool Studios. I have no idea who you are. No, not until...
Let me explain the situation.
Wait. Fuck!
Edwin Murray has gone missing, leaving our
God damn it.
in his warehouse. Your job is simple. Enter the warehouse and retrieve the technology that...
They are trying so hard to sound almost like the original phone guy, but they're just like missing the mark. They're like 10 degrees off the mark.
He was developing for us. It's a kind of prototype endoskeleton that can adapt to any costume and become any character. I suspect it may be malfunctioning, so just be aware of the slim but non-zero chance that you could sustain significant injuries while attempting to retrieve it, including but not limited to death or dismemberment.
Okay.
We fully expect the retrieval process to go smoothly.
Okay. Clown. Anybody else think this just feels like some developer like Scott Cawthorn fucking watched Poppy's Playtime and was like, oh, we could do that with FNAF, but there's like no Freddy.
Just in case, we suggest
Mushroom.
you get your affairs in order before arriving.
Oh, that's horrifying. Puzzles. Oh. Okay. Wait, was that Secret of the Mimic?
Thank you for being a valued member of the Fazbear team.
Okay, that's June.
Greetings from Moonhood. We're the creators of the Midnight Walk, cozy horror game created entirely in clay, where you will journey down
A cozy horror game. Okay.
They want to devour you and your little lantern creature, Hot Boy. Together with your little friend,
okay,
you must outsmart these terrors and bring back fire.
Yeah, no, you can do that. You can have a cozy horror game. Technically, like, what is it? Little Nightmares would qualify sort of as a cozy horror game.
After the end of the world, the burnt one woke from a deep slumber.
First person. Oh no. Oh, that's cool. That's also horrifying. Oh my God.
Almost forgotten how it felt. You're the caretaker of this little firecracker. I reckon you must be headed for Moon Mountain. Am I right?
Okay, this is a very cool style. Texas throw pillow kerfuffle. Oh my God. Oh. Okay. I like it. I like it a lot. Gun. This is a Marin game. It seems pretty neat. It's a very cool premise. I don't think there's been any other game ever done like that.
For that updated look at the Midnight Walk.
Nightmare Before Christmas, but better. Looks interesting at least. I agree. Darwin's Paradox? Octopus!
In Darwin's Paradox, you play as Darwin, a clever octopus who finds himself dumped near a highly suspicious food processing center.
Oh? Okay.
Use Darwin's natural camouflage and inking skills to escape the facility and save the world from aliens.
Okay. An octopus saves the world from aliens. I like it.
We're excited to reveal a brand new title from Koei Tecmo Games and Omega Force. Warriors Abyss, a roguelite spin on the Warriors franchise.
Okay. Okay, I'm guessing this is Warriors as in like Dynasty Warriors.
Call on powerful allies.
Nobunaga.
Experiment with tons of playstyle.
It's Dynasty Warriors Hades? I don't think it's Dynasty Warriors Hades. It seems more like Dynasty Warriors Vampire Survivor.
A roguelite hell awaits when Warriors Abyss launches on PS5 and PS4 later today.
Oh!
For
it's
whom
out.
Are you working? I won't forgive you. Prepare yourself.
Is this the remake?
PS2 era classic returns with Onimusha 2: Samurai's Destiny.
Okay. This is they've been doing a return, a remake or return.
HD graphics and a host of
because didn't they announce a new Onimusha earlier this year?
Immerse yourself in Jubei's hard-boiled journey and fight through a world of turmoil alongside trusty allies.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's probably what it is. It's probably to get people more into the franchise for the new game.
PS4 on May 23rd and will be available for pre-order later today.
Okay.
Looking to 2026, let's check out a new trailer for Capcom's latest entry in the series.
Speaking of which,
Onimusha: Way of the Sword.
Give me your magic, pretty please. I don't think I remember seeing the original trailer for this, so I think this is the first time I've seen one of the Onimusha trailers. Captured on PC. There's somebody floating there. I'm just napping. Fuck off. Okay. Belle. It was a hard game. I'm not surprised. There's something about like PlayStation making, PlayStation having like Japan style like games. Maybe not even exclusively made by like a Japanese studio or anything. But them being hard as shit is very much like a common part. Like Ninja Gaiden is an example of another Japanese themed-ish game. Oh. Ooh. The cutscenes look stellar, but the gameplay doesn't quite look how Captain Jack Sparrow of you. Ooh. Okay. I know a Meatball Man who's in place right now over this. Okay. Yeah. I remember Emot and a couple other people were really excited for the Onimusha games. I've never played any of them. Oh. It's the Witchblade. I'm kidding. It looks kind of like the Witchblade, but it's probably not the Witchblade because that can only attach to women. Fast gameplay, but in RE like static rooms.
Security on this place.
This is, what is it, Delta?
I'm sure of it.
Or is this... Is this Delta or is this a remake?
America is out to destroy the Shagohod and get its hands on your inheritance.
Inheritance?
Philosopher's legacy. Then they're out to kill me as well. What's the story between you and the boss?
Okay.
She was like a mother and my master.
Masa Witchblade? Excalibur was the male Witchblade, but yeah. Okay. I've completely forgotten about the Excalibur. It is a remake. Oh, right. Delta was the remake, wasn't it? Bees!
I see it. The fear. A great, terrible fury at being alive. A host of sorrows, and you are one of them.
Why'd you come?
Because the Delta is technically a remake, isn't it?
Go home. Go back to your boss.
It looks good.
I still have the Shagohod and the legacy. There is nothing America can do to stop us.
America. Hell yeah, RPG time. Is the perfect game anyway? Delta's remake? Yes. Snake Eater's the perfect game anyway? Okay. Hi, Hanedu. Oh? Huh? What is that from? Ape Escape. Why'd you let him escape, Marin? I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I didn't know what it was. Hey, that's a nice boat. What is... Oh, those are bodies.
Questions.
This is the sequel to...
Come back.
I stood in the home I was born in.
No.
In that moment,
this is something else.
I felt the connection.
Epsilon 11, sound off.
Okay.
They're gone.
The boats escaped. Quick, send the Wiggles to capture. No! That is... Good lord, sir. You should probably get that mask removed. That's not normal.
Madness and hatred and lots of it.
Okay. God damn it, guys, we're trying to watch trailers here. Stop sending in the children. Ooh. I was gonna say this is the sequel to this year. What was the Norman Reedus game? Death Stranding. I was thinking for a second, I was like, is this a sequel to Death Stranding when I was just hearing the audio? But then eventually it came around and it still kind of feels like Death Stranding. All right,
yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this
God damn it, guys. All of the redeems at once. Trailer for the Wiggles new game. It's a platformer. It's a rage game platformer. Good luck.
You want to know the year? What a pleasure to meet a stalker worthy of the name. It's been far too long.
Wiggle.exe, the wiggling.
My forever friend. Help me to hold your hand and dance.
And then there's this bad bitch. I don't know who she is, but I love her. Throw didn't work? Throw didn't work. Okay, hold on.
Legendary.
Okay, there we go.
She stepped up only because no one else could. Too many stars were lost to that.
Goodness. Okay, it just wasn't connected. It's fixed now. I don't know why it disconnected. It's probably because of Twitch's API nonsense. Like, that was cool. That Wolverine shit. Apparently a gunblade. And then whatever the hell this lady is doing, because holy shit.
I swear I won't be late. Not again.
I kind of hope that was the real Dogman. It could be. And Twitch taking away the tits. It happens. Okay, it happens. This better not be Foam Stars. This better not be Foam Stars. No, this isn't Foam Stars. Bayon. Is it gonna be another one of those games where you play as like a blind person? Okay, no, the style is just bubbling.
Where do you think doors have eyes?
Okay.
We don't know where our children will put their roots.
Carousel. A merry-go-round, if you will. Does this count as voxel? It feels voxel. Can't believe that kid gunned down a guy that was just trying to get a snack at a vending machine. Dreams of another. Don't let the horses loose, they might become altered items. Listen, it's fine. They are already altered items. Everything is made of boxes. Boxes.
皆さんこんにちは。Qゲームスのクリエイティブディレクターのパイオンです。私の最新作ドリームオブサナザーはいかがだったでしょうか。破壊なくして想像はないというテーマ。
Sir, did you make this game by yourself? I'll alter your item. You promise. You promise.
傷つけたり破壊するのではなく、抽象化している散らばった世界を具体化して。
Abstract chaos and materialize the world around you.
本作ではポイントクラウドというテクノロジーを採用し、プレイヤー幻想的な夢の世界やダイナミックな変化を与えることができます。
It's really cool. There's been a couple games in here that have seemed like completely unique ideas, and I really like it.
Hey everyone, I'm Kristen Zatani, and I'm excited to share even more PlayStation news in today's show. Days Gone Remastered, the definitive version of Ben Studios' post-apocalyptic open-world epic, comes to PS5 with VRR support and PS5 Pro support.
Meh. Who the fuck cares? This game was fine. It does not need a remake.
Photo mode, new accessibility features, and Horde Assault.
How about you just add that to the base game?
Horde sizes that will provide a fresh way to experience Days Gone.
Jesus, my PC is gonna burst into flames.
If you purchase Days Gone on PlayStation 4, you can upgrade to a digital version of Days Gone Remastered and get all the content and features for $10.
It's also kind of reminding me of again the mobile zombie game that you constantly get ads for. The most mad-generic looking game of the last generation.
The sci-fi action game is partnering with Goddess of Victory Nike on a new boss battle, collectible dolls and stickers, plus a new outfit.
Of course they fucking are. Oh, please.
Both the Nike
oh, come on, their butts are even hanging out in the promo art.
Launch this June. We've got some
of course they are.
Updates today, starting with game catalog
titles. God, I'm gonna hate to go look at Grump's Twitter after this, aren't I?
Jedi Survivor, Top Spin 2K25, and launching in a game catalog, Lost Records Bloom and Rage, from the creators of Life is Strange.
Oh, I forgot about Lost Records.
Girls ever see anything weird around these parts?
See anything weird?
In this episodic adventure,
look at that nerd.
4 high school girls living through the defining summer of their lives. What begins as a tale of friendship will eventually blend reality, dreams, and the unknown into a dual timeline narrative.
Okay.
The first
easy solution, never go on that site.
Rage arrives February 18th, with the second
Which
episode
site?
arriving in April. We're also excited to confirm 2 unique indie titles that will launch.
Teens doing dumb shit? Didn't expect that. Wow.
Explore a mysterious mansion.
Wait, is that you looking back from a couch?
Architectural adventure.
That's hilarious. That's a good emote too.
Every door is a new decision as you build out
both 2 Gooting games at once. Yeah.
Shifting rooms, adding layers of strategy, puzzles, and exploration. Blueprints launches day 1 into game catalog this spring.
Okay. Seems interesting. Abiotic Factor?
Abiotic Factor is a 6-player survival crafting game from Playstack and Deepfield Games. Stranded miles beneath
is it just coming to PS5? Is that what this is about?
Gear and traps to outwit your enemies and make this bizarre underground complex your new home.
PC game coming to PlayStation. Amazing.
Will be available in game catalog when it launches this summer.
Is that Gmod? No, it's Abiotic Factor. Hora, Izzy, and like Harvey have been playing quite a bit of it.
Plus Classics catalog.
They've been playing that game quite a bit.
3 Armored Core titles from the original PlayStation.
Also, who's still my babs?
Armored Core Project Phantasma, and Armored Core Master of Arena.
Ooh.
Patapon 3 slides its way into the classic
Patapon?
catalog next week.
Wait, there is a Patapon 3? I think I remember the first Patapon.
No one knows how that world came into being.
Oh, we've seen this.
Everything from the past.
It's like the witch thing. Something about like a witch, I'm pretty sure. I think? I could be misremembering.
Mistake.
Okay.
It's the aura of the Grail pieces. I can sense it.
You don't need to sense it. It's right there. Hello. I'm sure that's not a boss. Wow.
But wishes come at a price.
To pursue one's wishes.
Oh, are we getting like a... Is this going to be a Holy Grail game? Okay. We're getting an, ooh. Okay. Listen, if this plays like Bayonetta, I am fine with that. I think it does. Oh, okay. Okay. Interesting.
This is a feast only for the king.
I wonder what sort of lore they're gonna either come up with or make for the Holy Grail. Like, are they gonna stick with the original, like, Earth lore of the Holy Grail, that, like, the Holy Grail is full of the blood of Jesus? Oh god, the bitrate. Oh god, the bitrate.
My quarrel lies not with
Oh shit, ad break! I didn't even see the 5-minute warning. All right, hold on, guys. We'll get back to finishing this trailer in just a couple minutes. Let me get the words on stream for y'all. I missed the 5-minute warning. That's my own bad. That's my own bad. But we will be back shortly. I'm gonna go get a snack to nibble on really quick because I'm a little hungry. Because I didn't eat before stream. All right. Okay, chat. Oh no, Sunstar! Oh no! All right. That's fine. Y'all can have another round. Oh my goodness. Let me turn the music down. Huey Lewis in the news, baby. Just the blinks. Just the blinks. Hi, Sebas. What can I do for you? How are you doing, Sebas? From first time chatter to already having enough points to throw something at me? Impressive. Curse you, Bale! I need the anime one. Thank you. I need the anime one where it's the curse you, Bale! I hereby... Oh, that's right. I love that fucking... I love that yelling little maniac. Okay. I ate some spicy potato chips during the break because my grocery store has like a whole bunch of like their own like brand of chips. Me running to the woman so she can give me guns to fight Vale. All right, you can have one gun. You get one gun, Corvo. Might I offer the Benelli? I need the scene. I need the scene from like John Wick. Where it's that guy in the hotel that's like handing him guns and like giving him recommendations like it's fine wine. That would be a good scene. Hey, go commit a crime. Gabble. It's a harpoon gun. You get a harpoon gun and it comes with 3 ammo maximum. Now I go kill Vale. All right, have fun. Hi, Coco. All right, chat. Let's finish this trailer.
But I will take back everything that belongs to me.
Oh.
Even if the price
it's giving Bayonetta. It's giving Bayonetta. Tides of Annihilation. Okay. In development for PS5. Shit.
The table is dead. It exists no more.
Okay, this is going to be an Arthurian tale kind of thing. It looks like. Ooh. It looks like it's going to be like King Arthur kind of thing, and that's probably the story they're going to go with for the Holy Grail.
How do you feel?
Okay.
Bothering you?
Cyberpunk Doom?
There's some noise in my core.
I see Cyberpunk Doom. Anybody else? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because most of the big enemies look like they were knights.
You must retrieve the architect's core.
No, not this one. This one's not the one I was talking about.
They will send everything they have to stop us.
This screams Doom.
You know I would never want to see you hurt.
Those guys weirdly look like Trauma Team. Damage amp.
We walk demands the extreme.
I remember you.
Oh.
Run away.
Okay. Metal Eden. Comes out May 6th. Damn, there's a lot of games coming out in May. Doom with some Ghost Runner influence? Yeah.
My memory's still a bit blurry.
Build a rocket boy?
Remember this.
That looked like Ready or Not for a second.
I have these
Dwone.
gaps inside my head. Satellite gives us a 10-minute window. You made it.
Okay.
That's just leftover hardware. It's been decommissioned. All I know is that
Tighter, shorter in Portuguese, the word isn't so cool, especially Mare and Costa. Costa's pretty good. Costa's a good word.
All this time you just want to think about the tech in your head? Are you kidding me? This thing has ruined my life. You have no idea who you're dealing with.
what you did.
You know, I did kind of ask for another game that was like,
This is not the first time we've had a fatal error with your tech.
what was it?
Make it stop! Make it stop!
That was like Detroit Become Human, but I honestly did not expect to get Detroit Become Human meets iRobot meets GTA.
This is the only way.
Mind's Eye, okay. I'm getting Ghost Recon with Cyberpunk. I'm getting GTA with Deus Ex. Yeah, Deus Ex makes sense.
Boy's new action adventure set in the fictional city of Red Rock, where AI and human greed collide to bring Earth to the precipice of collapse.
Oh, the whole we're having a whole planet scale issue here. This isn't just a city thing.
Some gameplay footage with the explosive combat and high octane driving that you can expect on
Get to see
PlayStation
gameplay?
5 later this year.
Okay. No, we're not gonna get like... See, like these driving scenes feel like GTA to me. Angle, like even look.
It was an ambush.
Like I think Red Rock is gonna end up being just like basically a renamed Los Angeles. Like how in Ready or Not, Los Sueños is LA, but it's in the location of San Diego.
Tires are out. Proceeding on foot.
Is it gonna be open world like GTA? I don't know. It could be.
I'm coming to you now.
I mean, I can understand you having missions and stuff, but I think it is gonna be open world. Yeah, okay, so it looks like there's a point in the game where I guess the robots go haywire, or like whatever the AI is go haywire. The Robomarians want more land for carnival shenanigans. They're taking over. We will expand! You can't stop us. The carnival grounds must continue to grow. We will add more departments, more rides, more shows. I think they're hunting you for that chip. Maybe, or maybe, because I think the chip is like what caused the guy earlier for his like robot arm to like malfunction and try to shoot him. Yes, more food stalls, always more food stalls.
This world, this moment, this choice.
What is up with these weird Death Stranding starting trailers? Because it really feels like Death Stranding.
Every time the sun dies, madness reigns.
Every time? Like this has happened multiple times?
Then everything begins again.
Oh no, is this gonna be some kind of death loop game?
But after every death, I always come back stronger.
Oh.
I know that you are.
This is gonna be a Souls-like. This is gonna be a gun Souls-like, isn't it? Oh no, this is gonna be a bullet hell game. Saros. Rumble Coldy? Oh. Like Remnant? Maybe, it could be like Remnant. Roguelikes, Mr. Narrator? Yes. Hindu inspired, please, 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 please. I could see that happening. Okay, yeah, I forgot all of these games were gonna be 2026 because these are part of the next section.
Hey everyone, I'm Gregory Loudon, Creative Director at Housemarque. We are thrilled to announce that our latest game, Saros, is launching next year on PS5.
These guys are always so goofy, and it's like they just pull. It's like, guys, we're doing a direct today. You need to come into the studio to record. Fuck, I didn't dress up today.
IP that builds on Returnal's award-winning third-person action.
Oh, Returnal.
Arjun Devraj, performed by the brilliant Rahul Kohli. Arjun is a powerful enforcer searching for answers on a hostile, shape-shifting planet haunted by an ominous eclipse.
Oh, okay, it is very similar to Returnal.
Can't wait to share more about Saros,
okay, gotcha.
with our first look at gameplay coming later this year.
So yeah, it is gonna have the same like bullet hell mechanics as like Returnal and stuff. That makes sense. Returnal was a pretty interesting game. Is that everything? it is. Okay. We did all the games. Okay. PlayStation. All right. Let me swing back over here for a second while we go do the Faye thing. All right. I think because Faye's coming, we're probably going to end up doing the really long Victorian England's most gruesome railway murders today. So if you're here for games and you're not here for dark, grim, and or spooky stuff, I'm sorry. A lurk is always greatly appreciated. Now for murder. Yeah, murder. Did you see the new gameplay for Elden Ring Night Rain? I don't care for Elden Ring Night Rain. I don't care for Elden Ring. You could release another DLC and I will not flinch. Railways, murders, yes. But hold on, I need to go summon the octopus wife. Hold on a second. I need to ping her. Okay. Okay, I had to do the running joke of the way we need wife. We need wife.
Hello.
Hi, wife.
Hello. I got the giggles.
Oh God, what are they doing up there?
Oh, we were just being silly with games, and Hora was showing off a new game, and then I said I gotta go talk about train murders with a hot clown, and Ema insisted I elaborate, but I did not elaborate, and I think you would be proud of me for not elaborating.
I am proud of you for not elaborating, because it's funnier that way.
Yay!
All right.
I did it!
We watched the PlayStation State of Play, and it was... it basically went PlayStation game coming to PC, PlayStation game coming to PC, PlayStation game coming to PC, PC game coming to PlayStation, and then games in development for PlayStation 5. And there was like one of those.
Okay, so the PS5 still has like no games. Also, Marin Horatius says...
Wait, what was that?
Horatius says hi.
Okay. It cut off before you said hi, and I thought it was just like a noise. I was like, huh?
No, sometimes my voice reaches pitches humans can't hear.
Hora says, hi.
Hi.
All right.
They're gaming.
I don't know.
They're all being silly gamers. I love them.
All right. I have not watched Absolute History, so I don't know what their style is like, but they had a very cool thumbnail, and I want to know about things. I like learning things.
Learning. Oh shit, train!
Train!
Honk.
Oh, here, I'm going to turn it up. It's a little quiet compared to the last video.
From town to town and city to city, the tracks
Also, hi
spread.
chat. I see everyone
They
saying
changed the
hello
way
to
we
me. You
live
guys are so
forever.
sweet.
Oh no, the narrator's British.
But there was a dark
British in it. Oh no, he's an old British white man!
This technological revolution offered new opportunities
A white man? No.
for the oldest of crimes.
Imagine Emot pokes in after 10 minutes. What distant age would you recommend? 20th? Always 20th edition?
Always 20th. Yamot can poke his head in. I refuse to elaborate because it's funny.
Emot could come in if he wanted to, but I don't think he's been in here today.
Of the victims
I don't know what. He's up there gaming, so I don't know.
Scotland Yard and the
We were gonna
railway
do
police.
Helldivers, but I was just
This
waiting for
is
you to
the
call me.
history of blood on the
If you want to go play Helldivers, go right ahead.
I want to be here and talk about trains.
We're talking about trains!
Stop trying to get rid of
murders in basic Western font for some reason.
I'm having an icky week. You have to be nice to me. You can't keep getting rid of me like this.
You have to be nice to me. Did you already eat all your ice cream?
No, I saved some for today, and tomorrow is ramen day.
Oh yeah, Friday's ramen day.
Yeah, it's ramen day. We will send you pictures.
Yes. Was that the video that just did the?
The
Yep,
9th
it
of
went.
July, 1864. It was 10 past 10.
You got a
in the
copy of
evening, and
Mage
the
20
train
yesterday? It's big
was
enough to
ready
kill a man? Yeah,
depart
700 plus
from Hackney
pages.
Station in East London.
That you need to be on a bucket of LSD to understand.
With first-class tickets
30 tabs.
had just taken seats in the compartment nearest the engine. But as the young men sat down, they realized something was very wrong.
I've never been on a
The
train.
cushions and walls were splattered with blood. A black leather bag lay open
As
on a
they
seat.
sat
On the
down, they
floor
realized something was wrong.
was
It's
a
like, oh,
man's
this is probably
cape
just a pattern. Why is it
with a
wet?
heavy ivory knob.
Probably.
And beside it, a crumpled top hat.
Oh
Whatever
no,
happened
not the silk
in that
hat.
first-class compartment.
A top
had been
hat.
Violent, but no one had heard any cries
Sir
for help,
Topham
and there was
hat.
no report of a disturbance. The victim
Yeah, because it's right
and
by
his
the
attacker
fucking engine.
had vanished.
Mysterious. They'd thrown him out the window and then just, gotten off. It's fine.
Yeah, just eat. No more problem.
It was caused quite a shock. It was a big sensation at the time.
Oh God, I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle 2 hours
into
of British men
people's
talking at me.
Doubts about
Well,
the
I'm here to help
safety
you get
of
through
the
it.
railways.
Yay.
It disturbs.
Did
the
you know they didn't want women riding trains because
that
they
had
thought their
surrounded
uteruses would fly out of
railway
them?
travel
Wasn't it also the same thing with horse riding?
in a way that
Yes.
leads us
I'm fairly
to
certain.
think a great
Damn,
deal
Faye, I
But I
can't
do
believe your
know
uterus will fall out at the
of
minors
technology
disturbances.
and
I wish it
assumptions
would.
about how positive it is.
It showed that
Go on,
this
get!
new way of traveling
Go
was
on,
not
get! I'm
necessarily
not
safe
using
for
that
you to be
fucking
stuck in
thing.
a sealed compartment and come to a very sticky end.
Sticky
Victorian.
ends.
Oh, sticky.
Very British way
Victorian-
of saying very, very bloody.
Yeah.
The
Victorians also believed that the uterus would just get up and wander around, which is another reason why they didn't want women on trains.
Wait, what was it?
Opened in 1830.
They believed that the uterus was a
It linked
free-floating
the
organ that
industrial
moved
powerhouse
around
of
the
Manchester
body.
with the port at Liverpool, and it was intended to carry mostly food.
Yeah! Huh?
But passenger
Medicine!
demand quickly
White man's
exceeded all
medicine, baby!
expectations.
I cast recover Ordain's hat is covered in blood.
Until then, a stage
Covered in blood, bloody
had
hat.
been the
Hi,
fastest
Ren.
form of
He got
public
no room for
transport.
no
It could
womb.
cover 8 miles
Nope.
in an hour. The Liverpool and Manchester
Hot air balloons make it fall out too. Sorry, Faye, you can't go on the hot air balloon rides.
And they were
God
not
damn
only
it.
twice as fast as
You also
I
can't
don't
ride
like
roller
height.
coasters because
The
if you ride the
tickets were
Superman
half
on the
price.
loop-to-loop, your uterus is going to
New
fall out and
railway
land on the
was
person
hugely
behind you.
popular and profitable.
I'd be fine with that.
Investors and businessmen quickly
Be
saw
cheaper
the
than
potential.
surgery.
Britain was seized by a railway mania. New lines stretched out.
Yes,
across
the good old railway mania.
Yeah.
Tally ho,
it was
guys!
the
We're
same-
taking the railroad simply because we can. It'll be wonderful.
Well, it was the same kind of phenomenon during the Renaissance period when, like, cathedrals and churches were being
Probably
built
the
all
most
across
momentous
Europe because it was
innovation
creating
since the
jobs
invention of
and
agriculture at the end of the
tourism and
Stone
all that
Age.
other
Lots
stuff.
of different railway
So it's the same
companies,
effect here.
Privately
Yeah.
financed by and large, and not always.
Except these can
particularly
actually
well
be used.
coordinated. They would choose a route.
You can't
which
really
they
do
thought
anything with the
was
church
gonna
other
give the
than
most commercial
go to
advantage.
church and
There were a
leave
number
church.
of minor
Going
rail
loco for
companies.
railway
These
mania.
gradually became
Lamau.
abandoned by the 1860s.
Oh,
You had
indubitably.
something like about 5,000 miles of track.
Getting fixed would have been easy for women back in the good old days. Just get on a train, it'll all fall out.
Yeah,
Does it still
unfortunately,
work with
that's-
Amtrak?
The pace of change was staggering.
they make you pay a fee.
By
I think.
1864, nearly every major town and city in
Just
Britain
gonna say, can you
was
imagine
linked
going
by a
on
sprawling
fucking
network of
Amtrak
railway tracks.
or like hearing like
These
some like
iron roads
ridiculously
sliced
right wing like
through
politician
hills
be
and
like
forests.
saying today it's
They
like
spanned
Amtrak's
rivers
giving
and
away
valleys.
free what are they
They were
called?
even beginning to
Hysterectomies.
beneath the earth.
Yeah.
That seems like something that they would
transformed
say.
Not just the scenery,
They would
but
probably
the culture
try,
as well.
all
Everything
things
seemed
considered.
like it was going to take place at high speed.
Gestures
and
at
people's sense of time
government.
became
Did
standardized.
gestures broadly.
Had to keep
Yes.
railway time. So you, the passengers, the users of the railway,
I swear I've
You
seen
had
that lady in other
railway
documentaries.
It transformed people's sense of space. The whole world.
Marin, you
seeming
can't just
much
say all
more
white people look
connected
the same.
in a way that we can compare to the internet.
Actually,
today.
you can.
If
It's
you were born at
hilarious.
the end of this revolution, it would have been hard to imagine what it was like.
Can we
to
write off
live
riding a
without the
train as a
railway.
medical expense? Probably.
I mean, if they took your uterus, yeah.
I would pay for that. If that was a thing that could happen, if I could pay for a removal via train, and all I gotta do is just sit quietly for a few hours, I'd pay a few $100s for that.
$40 for a cross-country trip to lose your uterus.
That excitement.
Yeah.
This technological innovation also provoked fears. Could the human body cope with such speeds? Would society, with all
Here we
its
go.
traditional bonds
Yep,
and
there's the
hierarchies,
issue.
survive this steam-powered revolution?
Just see 5 people. Why does the guy on the left look like a real person, but everybody else looks like they're drawn?
The class system was just embedded
It's
into
the facial
everything.
hair, I
There were
think.
worries with the railways that
No, the second guy to the left.
social promiscuity.
The one that didn't have any facial
The
hair.
baronet might have to sit next to a baker.
Well, it's
or
the
a
lack
boot
of facial
blackener
hair then.
Or a butcher.
People were confined to individual compartments.
Okay.
So people weren't quite sure who was going to get on at the next station and share a compartment with them.
It worried the Victorians that there were these opportunities
Strangers.
for the criminal
Ew,
classes, the
strangers.
roughs, to
The
have an
criminal
easier
classes and the
access
ruffians.
to the respectable middle and upper classes,
Strangers.
to respectable women.
We have to use an
make
excuse to
themselves
practice our ye old
nuisances
racism.
in a way that if they were
It's ye old
simply on
classism.
foot, they couldn't
That
do.
too.
So people frequently hid their bags or gripped their stick.
I mean,
ready
I
to
still do
beat
that
off
when
an
I go on
attack.
public
So there was
transportation.
this fear, this uncertainty.
But
about
it's like, it's
traveling
because
in a
I,
railway
like,
carriage.
usually I'm carrying shit that I don't want to lose. So it's just like one of those things where it's like, I'm sitting on a bus.
things
Okay,
should
my
worry Mr.
backpack is
Thomas
currently
Briggs.
strapped to the front of me. I'm sorry.
In 1864, the 69-year-old banker had an annual season ticket.
I don't
for the
usually
North
do
London
short-term
Railway.
public transport.
I'm rather
though.
fond of putting it in the seat next to me
The North
unless
London
we are getting
Railway
particularly
did not
full up
run
on like a bus or something.
third-class carriages in
If we're getting
1864.
particularly full up on passengers.
Because it served the city.
There's one thing I do in airports. Cash, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. There's one thing I do in airports with like if I have like a backpack or something something that has a strap is I will actually loop it around my leg.
Chalk Farm. The
And I
idea
can
was
I
that
can
it
sit
would
very
pass
casually
through
while it's like that.
working class areas.
But should anybody try to just snatch what looks like a fairly
So they
expensive
only
backpack or something? Because I have a nice backpack that I've had
The
since
second
college.
class and first
I had a gaming laptop in college that kept breaking backpacks. So for one Christmas, my parents were like, "We got you this really expensive backpack. Don't look up the price though. It was just like a $200+ backpack." And I was like, "You idiots!"
This is a gentleman.
To be
who
fair, a
has
good quality
really
backpack
pretty
will
much got
last
to
you.
the upper
I just
echelons
don't
of the
particularly
middle
care for
classes.
discrimination against
You couldn't
strangers.
go
I can understand
higher
protecting your items
he had
though.
risen
Oh, I just do it in
There's
general.
polite-
It's just like one of those things
Yeah.
that like if I go to sit down at like the airport or something, I like stick my
Briggs
leg
took
through the
train
backpack
almost
strap.
every day.
Yeah, but that's
Journeying
just you
between
practicing
his home
common
in
sense in a
Hackney
public
and his
space.
office
That's not
at
you being
Robarts Curtis Bank
a
in the
Victorian
city.
and going, but I don't
9th
want
of
the
July
riffraff
was
to sit next to me in my
It was a
train
Saturday.
compartment.
Then maybe
But
you should get the
Briggs was
first class
still
ticket, but I don't
expected
want the first class
At
ticket.
3 p.m. after work,
Can't
he
afford
took a
it.
long
Oh,
bus
maybe
across
you
London
are the
Bridge to
riffraff.
pay one of his regular visits to his niece in Peckham. He had dinner.
I
with
feel like that thing
Caroline
would
and
tip
her
over
husband,
very easily.
And it was still light when he left at around 8:30. He reached Fenchurch Street Station in time for the 9:45 train.
Fenchurch Street.
He cheerfully
Why does
didn't know
why
Fen
does
had a
name
Street.
Church Street feel like it has too many words?
Thomas Briggs clambered
Because
into the
it's the
first-class
English, my
compartment
dear.
nearest the
I feel like it
engine.
should be Finn Street on
few
Finn
minutes later,
with Finn Church on Finn
The train
Street.
was on the move.
Oh no.
Putting it between your legs is my tactic. Well, it usually does sit like between my legs, but I also make sure I have like a leg through the backpack strap.
The empty
Yeah.
and blooded first-class compartment found at Hackney Station was sealed
Maybe
off.
bring it back later. You wouldn't just
Then
give
the
it? Of
train
course not,
departed
Unter.
Just a few minutes late.
No.
Police would soon meet it at Chalk Farm, its final
There's
stop.
a difference
By
between
then,
protecting yourself while
another
simultaneously
grim
making sure you're
discovery
not
had been
being
made.
discriminatory and
An
then
empty
being
train was returning
foolish.
to Bow Station when its driver spotted something between the tracks.
Oh?
He stopped his engine and
It's a
sent
bag.
the stoker and guard out to investigate. And lying on the gravel was the
Was me.
twisted, black-clad body of a man. Thomas
Oh,
Briggs
it wasn't
was
me.
unconscious, but still alive.
Oh. Oh boy.
Oh, lucky him. He got very
The
lucky.
train driver and the conductor
I mean, the number of videos I've seen today of like fucking what are those guys called?
To help him, and a police officer came.
Those guys that just like to like ride trains everywhere, or just for some fucking reason jump under trains so that they can just ride underneath. I'm always like, motherfucker, you're gonna die or get one of the worst gashes of your life.
Terribly injured from him either falling, jumping.
Lucky mangled and alive in that era.
He wasn't.
Carriage.
Was he mangled, or was he just like a heap?
He also had abrasions and bruises on his hands.
Okay, he had some bruising and some abrasion,
which suggest that
he's probably like thrown.
Fighting at least one assailant.
Okay, so he wasn't mangled. He had been in a scrap.
Looked at the injuries.
What is better, Grimace Shake or Shamrock Shake? I haven't had either of them, but I'm gonna guess because the Shamrock Shake comes back every year. It's the Shamrock Shake.
The Grimace Shake doesn't turn you in, or the Shamrock Shake, excuse me, doesn't turn you into a purple gooey body horror. So.
Is that what happened to you?
His wounds were severe. His skull.
Did McDonald's do that to you?
Yes, this is why you don't eat at McDonald's, and also all the other reasons to not eat at McDonald's.
His white beard was stained
the list just rolls out the door.
Briggs was identified from letters found in his coat pocket.
Head injuries, the rails made me assume he was floor salami. Floor salami.
Yeah, no, he had just fallen. He had just been like knocked unconscious on the rail tracks. That's why I said he was lucky, because if the train hadn't stopped, he would be very, very dead.
Thomas Briggs died.
Oh, well, he died anyway.
The Monday
Damn,
papers
bestie, I'm so
were
sorry.
full of news
Horrible
of
and
the attack.
atrocious murder.
Briggs had been
Murder in the first-class carriage in the noble London
chief
Railway.
clerk at the Robarts Curtis Bank.
I don't know why I'm doing it like I'm a New York newsboy.
Middle-class affluence and respectability. And he had been murdered while a passenger
Read all
on the
about
great
it.
technological
Extra,
innovation of the age.
Extra. That's what they say. Thank you, dear. Extra, read all about it. Man unconscious on train tracks, dies hours later.
This was the first time that somebody.
Possible murder, who knows?
Possible murder, don't know. I do this for pennies.
Secure. It should have been a safe environment.
Sir, would you like to buy a newspaper? I'm trying to save money to buy my little sister a nice dinner tonight because it's her birthday.
First-class carriage.
Want to buy her a chicken leg.
Gonna buy her a wonderful chicken leg. It's gonna have seasoning and everything.
In a train carriage, then why not in a church pew, or why not?
You said that way too sweetly.
It attacked the guardians of.
I'm smiling through the pain.
Respectability that
Me
made
too.
Britain and the British Empire great.
The British Empire.
Scotland Yard Police Commissioner Sir Richard Mayne appointed one of his best men to the investigation.
Scotland Yard is always such a funny name to me.
Richard Tanner was just 31 years old.
What
and
really
newly
gets me is they're
promoted.
like, we don't know how
But he
this
was
happened. Nobody
well
heard
respected for his
anything. And then
hard
right
work
at the beginning, they're
and
like,
keen
it
eye
was the
for
car that was
crucial
right
leads.
by the train engine. Now, I don't know if I don't know if you've ever sat by the
family of
engine of
Thomas
anything in a
Briggs
vehicle,
had
whether that be a
identified the
plane, a
cane and the black
bus,
leather bag found in the
a
compartment.
train,
They had
and of the sort. But they're rather loud.
Briggs wore a silk top hat made by expert craftsmen in the City of London. His family
Expert
didn't
craftsmen.
recognize the crumpled beaver hat at all.
The British are coming for the carnival spices. They'll never take them. They're
It's
too
almost
spicy for them.
like touch.
It's
You know,
true.
The crumpled hat in the train compartment.
It was not a hat.
Oh God, that is a
but
look.
man of Mr. Briggs's
The epitome of British fashion.
responsibility. His standing would have
Just points to the picture of that guy. Like, this is why Britain is failing. British men don't look like this anymore.
From a
Man, what's
hatter
stopping you
in
from
the
dressing
city of
like
London.
this?
They were silk top hats. This was different.
I need a picture of like a man, like full-tailed coat, top hat, cane, and then post that and just be like, man, what's stopping you from looking like this?
Than Mr. Briggs's normal hat.
The weather, probably.
Nah, it's fine.
Find the owner of the crumpled top hat.
The
and
big guy with the
Inspector
tiny
Tanner
glasses.
would find the killer. He soon got an early breakthrough.
It's so bland because people were so desperate to copy the aristocracy is hilarious.
Thomas Briggs had owned a heavy, old-fashioned watch with a gold case and chain.
Marion's boat doesn't have an engine, it runs on wiggle power, correct.
A description of it was
I could feel the
circulated to
ticking
the
sound
newspapers
effect in
where
like
it
my
was seen
throat. That was
by
weird. It
jeweler
was like I swallowed a
John
bunch of pop rocks.
Deeth claimed a gold chain, like the one belonging to Thomas Briggs, had been exchanged in his shop
for the
on the
pop
Monday
rocks.
after the murder.
Oh, no. They're not saying everybody's being killed. We've only had one murder so far. We're still talking about Thomas Briggs. They just did the thing where they like start at the end and then go all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah, they are fascinated by the fact that this man possesses a silk top hat.
He'd picked out
It's probably because it's just one of the few things that they're using to like tie that top hat in the bloody compartment was likely Thomas Briggs.
Stamped with his shop's address.
John Deeth had never seen the young man before. And he described him
Only
as
one
about
murder,
30.
set up your game.
He thought he was German, and he noticed
like this
that
is
all
Clue?
the time that he was sort of valuing the chain, the young man was sort of
I
turning
think
this way and
I think
that,
Sunstar meant
so
step
to
up your game.
stop a really
Oh, step up your
clear
game. Yep.
impression being taken of him.
And those are rookie numbers.
Somebody being slightly embarrassed by
Yeah, step.
the
No,
need to
Sunstar. We
undertake
understood.
such a transaction. So for
Those are
him
rookie
to
numbers. You're
remain
going to
in
have to step those
shadows
up.
Would not have been difficult, and not
I'm up
because
to
he's
16, just on the last train from
But
yesterday.
it's an unusual
I can only
enough
eat so many people at once, Marin.
to account for
Eat.
Deeth's remembering.
I threw them in the boiler.
For him to have chosen
But I was
to
hungry.
exchange the watch chain for something that was inferior.
I mean, if you want them, they're still in the dice. She like
The
clanks
gap
it
was
open. You
not
look
enough.
inside. It's just fucking. It's just
a
bumps. Like, huh?
5-shilling gap.
Never mind.
Between the cost
I mean,
of the
eat
chain
the
that he
marrow.
chose
Yummy, yummy.
in exchange.
Slurp, slurp,
If
slurp.
it had been a pound, 2 pounds.
There's not nearly
that
as
would
much
have been
marrow in the human
understandable
bones
and probably forgotten.
as there is in like the
It's
usual bones
strange.
used from like bovine.
Phooey.
Cannibal Marin strikes again.
The police took away the heavy, old-fashioned
Can you be a
chain
It's not
as
cannibalism if you're not
It was
human.
quickly identified as belonging
points.
to Thomas Briggs.
Yeah, you're not. You would
Inspector
have to,
Tannen
in
now
order
had
for
a
it to be
possible
cannibalism,
suspect
you would
who
have
had
to
no
find
name
another of
and
whatever
only
your
the
species
vaguest of
is,
descriptions
shadow
he
creature,
needed
skin
more.
suit thingy.
I'm eating
and
my own
eat
hand.
that.
Employees at the Robarts
No,
Curtis
d-
Bank
no
took up
auto
£100
cannibalism.
as a reward for information.
No.
The government matched it, as did the North London Railway Company.
Marin knows your
Postage
band.
got
Nas
plastered
or
across the
nose?
capital. But days passed.
The
with no further
£300
breakthrough.
reward.
Tanner knew with each day that passed, the crime was less.
The fine
likely
chemio
to
page.
solve.
Listen here, you fucking
His
technocratic
investigation
piece of
was in
shit.
trouble.
Marin's not a cannibal. I might have to unfollow.
They
I mean, the
had
character's
failed
not. I never said
to
anything
come up
about the
with a
person behind the
solution
camera.
to a murder that had.
You are legally
caused
not obligated to
national,
answer
not
those
just
questions.
local.
As your Octo lawyer,
The
I advise you.
newspapers were demanding to know
I will make no
why
confirmation.
The detective police were so failing.
Only a cannibal in the Discord?
solve this
True. If you would like to volunteer for cannibalistic activities, you too can
London
join the
was a
Discord.
multicultural city.
You
It
should
had always
join. There's fun
embraced
things in there.
immigrants.
Joining the Discord does not guarantee you will be eaten by the ringleader.
presence of a German wasn't in and of itself particularly.
Just have it like it's a one of those like really fast disclaimers at the end.
Yeah.
He's probably a murderer. What on earth was a German doing?
It left the police.
It was the
still
German!
Looking for.
I didn't do it.
By the 18th of
Yeah,
July,
guys, we're
almost
looking for a
10
murder.
days
A murderer
had
where?
passed since the murder of Thomas
In
Briggs.
London and its
The
suburbs.
victim had
Oh,
been
okay.
buried, but
Can you
not
narrow it
far
down?
from
White Castle. Oh, okay. You're looking
Then
for
at
Jack the Ripper.
11:15
No. What?
That evening,
No.
a man walked into a police
This
station
one
in
happened on a
Marylebone
train.
and reignited the
Okay,
hunt
well,
for
was the
killer.
woman a prostitute? It was a man. Fuck!
Damn it!
Jonathan Matthews was a Hackney
It's
carriage
true, I am the
driver.
law.
He told police that on the Monday after the murder, a young German
Man, I
friend
cast
had
fireball
paid
at those
him a call.
accusations. All right, but take Paradox,
His
because
name
that's
was
vulgar.
Franz Müller. He was 23, a tailor who was
Franz
particularly
Müller.
fond of his black
Franz.
beaver hat. As they spoke,
Oh,
Müller had
German,
given
it would probably
Matthew's
be more like
daughter
Franz.
a box to play with.
Franz Muller.
And printed on the
Müller.
lid
Yeah.
was the name and address of the jeweler, John Deeth.
A box. Oh boy, opens. It's a pipe bomb.
This was
Oh,
the
no!
big breakthrough.
The police, who were under huge pressure to come up with a solution.
You,
Have
Hunter
something.
Holtz? German?
Yes, the box had come from
No.
the jeweler's shop.
Mueller.
Yes, the chain and the ring had been placed. in the
Mueller.
box. But best of all, Matthews was even able to provide
Escaping the
photographs.
8 long arms of the law. It's Faye. Faye is the law. Prepare to
really
get fucked
opens
by
up
the
the
long
case.
dick of the law.
I don't have one of those.
Have you considered
Hannah
making
had
one?
his lead at last. There was just one problem. The reason Franz Müller had visited Jonathan,
I'd have to be persuaded.
he'd come to say goodbye before leaving for America.
All right, you heard it, chat. Faye's gonna put the Moby Huge on throne.
I'm not a size queen.
I don't think anybody is a size queen enough to use the Moby Huge. I think it's more of a fucking practical joke.
Offered some of the
Like a
cheapest
prop.
fares to America.
But the Carnival's a
wasn't
merit-only
hard to see
judgment
why.
system.
The
I
Victoria
mean, legal
was an
judgment system, yes,
old-fashioned
but me and Faye will
sailing
judge you all the same.
Steerage passengers paid
It's
just
true.
£4.
Or
to
also
cross
the
Atlantic.
executioners.
But their quarters were cramped and uncomfortable. They had to prepare
Oh god,
their
the
own
tattered
meals.
tales.
And the passage would take 19 days, if they were lucky.
19?
Among
Jesus.
the passengers enjoying the Victoria's meager comforts in July 1864
You could say this is
was a
the.
young tailor.
Okay, no, I was thinking of the video we watched on the
Leaving
Queen
his
Marie.
troubles behind, he thought, heading for a new.
What is going on with this man's face?
That is an excellent question. I'm not sure. It
Is he
looks
just
like
really bad at shaving himself? It looks like the skin of his like jaw has essentially like hardened due to like repeated scarring. No.
Yeah.
So the larger spots on like to the top of his head could be smallpox scars. No, I'm talking about his jaw.
he could have had really severe acne at one point.
It
That's
could be,
been a thing.
But for the skin to
could-
harden almost
I
uniformly
don't think
here,
it's
aside from like
hardened. I think-
creases and stuff.
I'm not sure if it's hardened or if it's just severely pocked, and then there's a lot of cracking in the photo itself.
Yeah, it's
It
though
also-
like with how it like darkens up at towards the top, like towards
Yeah.
his ear. That's usually like it's basically like thin callousing almost. So it
Yeah,
could be
he
from
also-
his work. He could wear something that may cause this.
He also looks like he's been painted a little bit, because the Victorians did use what we would consider photo editing methods with certain kinds of paints and very tiny brushes, because there are certain areas of his face, like above his upper lip, that look way too smooth. His nose.
It could
The eyes
be, but
look
it's with
weirdly
his jaw though.
even.
This is definitely like natural coloring.
Yeah, that's natural. But,
But
he's been
it's-
he's had to have been cleaned up a little bit, because that's strange. I'm not entirely sure what it is though. Hydraulic work accident, maybe it could be.
I don't. It doesn't seem like a work accident kind of thing. It's like it looks like the kind of thing you get from like constant minor abrasion,
Like rubbing, friction.
friction, shaving every day, and maybe he's just really bad at it.
He could be very
And it's like
bad
it caused like irritation and inflammation, especially if he's using a
Yeah.
straight razor and stuff. Because you can see seams, like colored seams in there where it looks like gashes
Mm-hmm.
almost. Yeah, it could be
I'm gonna
razor
go
burn
with
buildup and him not
razor
using any
burn.
sort of like after product.
It's either razor burn, he survived a round of the pox and then continued to shave over his pustules when he shouldn't have and fucked his face up, or it's some kind of friction abrasion thing.
I think the dark spots towards the top of his head and around his eyes could be pox scarring, but I don't think pox scarring could lead to this on the lower face. Because he would have just nicked those off basically, and they would have been more localized scarring.
New start in the new world.
Tally-ho, lads, I'm going to
We
New
know that
York.
He comes
New
from
York!
Thuringia in Germany, and that
Rowbotham. Professor Judith Rowbottom.
From that region,
Rowbottom.
and indeed from his background, came
Row your bottom.
to the UK.
Franz Müller had come over to London.
Oh, he-
Are his
was
eyes
known
different
as a
colors?
Light young man.
No,
hadn't
he has
caused any
two different shaped eyelids.
problems. He wasn't.
I know
a
that.
violent
Plus, he's
man.
at, he's at
Records
an
we
angle,
have from
but no, his eyes are
friends
not two different colors.
Suggests that he was always trying to improve
That
his
man was
own
way too smooth.
clothing to get
Unser, we call them swaggers here, and they're not to be messed
angle
with.
to coat
We do
or
not. Yeah, that's not a
waistcoat or
word
trousers.
He was
we
employed
use.
as a
Uther.
tailor, and in the
a
weeks
cultural
before
Especially because
thing.
99% of the time it's
Okay,
dumb
he
as
was
shit
actually
to call
earning
them
about
that.
25 shillings a week.
Mm-hmm.
He had a certain amount of pretensions and would told
Swaggers,
people that he was
Swalkers.
going over to America where he was going to be earning £150 a year.
And 98% of the time, we just make fun of them.
Employers. Well, that wasn't actually true.
The 1% is talking about Until Dawn.
He was keen to do well, he was ambitious, and he wanted to go to America.
It's so funny how tailoring used to be a man's job and it was seen as a low-class position. Now
We
it's
need tailors
different.
to come back. People need to
Miller's
have
journey
fitted
to
clothes
New
again.
York was even slower than expected. The winds were against them.
That would
After
require
more than
putting
2 weeks
home
at
ec
sea,
back in
Victoria
schools.
had barely
Correct.
escaped the coast of Ireland.
And breaking down
Vast
the notion
Atlantic
that sewing
still
is
lay
inherently
ahead.
feminine, or that if you
Muller
are
passed the
masculine
time
presenting
gambling.
or
He
cis
lost
male
a bet over how
identifying, that
much
sewing
German
is somehow
sausage he could
gay
eat. He
in a
sold off
derogatory
his shirt
sense.
to pay debts.
God, I want
But
to
he
know how they
betrayed no
convince people
concern
that.
over what he'd left behind in
Plus,
London.
some of the
I-
best like
If he
suit people
feared
I've
the
ever
police
met were
after him,
just old dudes.
The other passengers didn't notice.
Every fancy suit place I've ever been to, there's an old man there, or where I got my suit for my sister,
All
not
Muller
my
had
sister,
to
my
do
cousin's
was
wedding.
get to America. Once he was there, he must
It was
have
the
thought,
black lady. A black
"He'll be
lady was the
free."
one who fitted me. She was the delight.
That's good. It's always good when your alterations and tailoring
situation in America
experience
was
is
pretty
nice
dramatic
because it can be a very
America's
vulnerable
in the
moment.
third year of the-
When I
of the
went
Civil
in to
There was,
pick it up after
as a
the
result,
the was it the adjustments and stuff? There was an old man there, and he was like,
for fighting men.
I like walked in wearing my dress shoes and stuff because I was
Oh,
expecting to have to
so
try it on.
Franz Muller would
But they were
Yeah.
so busy that I was just like, I'll just take it and go. It's no big deal.
was joined up under.
But he like
whatever
looked at
name
me as I was
came
standing. I was wearing like heeled boots and stuff. He was like, "Wow,
every
you look
chance you
really
could've
spiffy. Look at you." It's like,
It was
oh,
a huge country.
No.
blushies, blushies.
Police tracking
Blushies,
were much more
blushies.
effective in the big cities
No, that's
than they
good.
were
I'm glad you
elsewhere.
had a
So
good
If
experience.
he'd reached those shores first, then I'm not sure he would ever have been caught and brought to justice.
Oh yes, this is the time to talk about the ties between Jack the
As
Ripper and the
Victorians
Austin
struggled
Axeman.
across the Atlantic, in London,
Oh,
Detective
boy.
Inspector Richard Tanner was in a race against time. If he planned to arrest Muller in America and bring him back, Tanner would need an extradition agreement, and to get that,
Gross.
he needed more evidence.
Ew.
Really taking apart the watch to find evidence?
Why
He
not?
knew that.
I mean, I don't think you could find
have an
evidence in a
extradition
watch.
Hearing, he would have to.
Watches are
prove
usually very
this
much closed
to the
systems. They're
satisfaction of the
sealed pretty
American
tight.
authorities. And in those days, extradition proceedings were in their infancy, and they were always difficult.
It was going to be.
How do they make watches though? That stuff's so complicated.
Preparation.
Simple machines. It's basically a bunch of
Very
simple machines on top of each other.
Yep.
In order for the extradition.
Watchmaking
to be
is a lost
granted.
art.
So Tanner is.
There is a
caught
watch
in
craftsman
a really
about like
tense
20 miles
race
from me.
against time because
And I drive past this
Muller
place all the
is
time.
bobbing across the Atlantic Ocean very slowly.
But I've never been able to stop
his,
in to see what
boat,
it's like
the
in there.
Victoria. And Tanner's aware he's got to compile all this evidence that can present a watertight case, and he's also got
Because
to make
if you've
sure
ever
that
seen
the
it too, it's also
extradition process is going to be effective.
watchmakers
at
are
the
like
other end.
almost like lineage kind of thing. And more often than not, they're swooped up into larger like
Armed with the
watchmaking
photograph of
operations.
Muller, Inspector Tanner hurried
Singular
once more to the
and
jewelry
like
John
family owned
Dees
watchmakers are
confirmed it. That was
like 1 in a
definitely
million.
the man who had come
Probably
into
more
his
than 1 in a
shop to
million.
exchange the gold watch chain. Tanner rushed all over London. He spoke to Muller's landlady, his friend, his employer. He was building up a sketch of a vain
yes.
and boastful young man.
Hold on a second. Faye, do you remember the name of the, let me see. Uranium watch. I totally misspelled that.
You mean like the Radium Girls?
Yes. Was that what it was? Was it Radium?
Yeah, the Radium Girls. And they lost their jaws because they kept licking their brushes and they started to glow at night. And they worked in the watch factory. Yep, the Radium Girls. They started suffering horrible deformity.
There's that
because
this lady's
radium-
nose was disintegrating basically. This is the same girl. Growths not on her chin that they couldn't remove.
Yep.
And I don't remember for sure, but I think all of them did die eventually. And I believe they were
Eventually.
locked in lead coffins when they were buried.
Yeah, radium is a radioactive element that was being used to paint watches. Yeah, to make them glow. And
Yeah.
these women, after repeated prolonged exposure, basically started developing these deformities and losing flesh and tumor growth and all sorts of horrible things.
Hi, Wild. Thank you for swinging in.
Hello! Yeah, the radium licking.
Radium's been a nightmare basically for the majority of the early 19th century or 1900s, not 19th century.
Mm-hmm. They didn't have to lick it. It was just a habit of these ladies to
because they were
wipe off
painting,
the-
so they would to straighten out a brush, you would often lick it.
Yep.
And maybe twirl it in your mouth to get that nice little point.
To get a nice little point. As opposed to you couldn't really use water or anything. Oh yeah, the radioactive Fiesta plates. Well, it's specifically the orange one. I'm fairly certain.
Yeah, there's also radium was also used in medical science in the early 1900s. The reason I know this is because I've mentioned this before. The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks is a biography on Henrietta Lacks, aka the lady who died, and the scientific community essentially stole her cells and to this day still use her cancer cells for cancer research. But the way they tried to treat
Without
her
her
when she was still
bloody
alive
consent.
was by cutting her open and sliding a radium rod into her body next to the cancer, expecting the radium rod to kill the cancer.
But it
and she
did
would have
not.
that rod replaced. I think it was something like every 2 years or something like that. It was something like that.
Something like that, but no.
But there was
Henrietta
mention in the
Lacks
book of her living long enough to have it replaced once at least.
Yeah.
But she did die, I think it was something like 30 days after she was buried. They pulled her up to do an autopsy again and found that her cancer cells were still alive in the corpse. And that's when they started taking samples, and they've been growing it ever since.
Without her consent and without her family or estate's consent, she was being
Correct.
biologically exploited.
How did you live long enough for the replacement? People are resilient. You would be surprised. The human body is both fragile and extremely resilient.
That's the thing about radiation treatment is the right kind of radiation treatment can absolutely fix you and make you better. However, it's still radiation treatment and it can melt your entire being. That's the problem, and what Henrietta went through was barbaric, to say the least. And the fact that her cells are still being used for prolific, I have mushy mouth today, I'm so sorry, medical research is actually very, very, very sad.
Because if I remember correctly, one of the few things that they've, quote, done to reconcile it is they made a statue of her at the National Cancer Institute.
That's not
Which
really...
I was like, okay, but what else?
How, I don't know, how about compensating the family estate?
I think her daughter's still alive.
Let me see. I want to know.
I looked up one time when we talked about it, but
Mm-hmm. Well, we have technology.
No, they've done so many various things from we've had dinners in her honor. We put a statue up. See guys, see we're trying to make things right. It's like, okay.
Let me see.
Replace them with consenting cancer cells. The thing is her essentially her cells were unique in the degree of how resilient they were, which is why they're still used. You can buy them online.
It looks like all of her direct children are gone, with the last one passing in 2020.
Okay, that's probably why I thought she was still alive, because it was that long. Anybody want to spend $400 to buy some cancer cells?
No, in 2023, she had other family members settle a suit about her cells. I'm reading it really quickly right now.
As her being a martyr for the cause? Ugh.
Yeah. 2023, the Lacks family settled a lawsuit with a pharmaceutical company who had profited massively from Henrietta's cells, though the terms of the settlement remain confidential.
Yeah.
So she still had some bloodline around. Makes sense.
Yeah, I know there's members of her family. I just didn't remember how young they were.
Yeah, no, but it looks like the last of like her direct birth, like from her
Her direct
husband,
children.
Yeah, passed away in 2020, which really wasn't that long ago.
Henrietta Lacks? I think Henrietta Lacks died 40s, 50s? If you're looking at it, you could probably see when her death date was.
1951.
51, okay.
Yes, she was born in 45 and passed in 51. So she was not. Oh wait, no, she was born in 1920. Excuse me.
Yeah, I was gonna say she was a grown woman.
Yeah, no, she was born in 1920. I was reading my numbers wrong. So she was born in the 20s and died in 51. She was only 31 years old.
Yep. Hi, Kono. Girl situation has helped humanity a ton, for better or for worse. True. This unethical dark shit. Oh no, we were just talking that was just a random topic. We're currently looking at railway murders, which is killing British people, which
I do not
morally
take joy
correct
in the
question mark?
things that took place in Henrietta Lacks's life. I never will.
Also, hi Fairbanks. Thank you for the 23 months. Almost 2 years. Almost 2 years.
2 years of Marn?
Marn.
2 years of Marn. Marmalade.
Kono, what are the legal ramifications of stealing Henrietta's cancer cells from her coffin for research? Over like 70 years later, nothing.
Me finding you and beating you. Because don't desecrate a corpse.
Murder. Oh my god, murder?
Murder.
Anyway,
Murder
back
on
to-
a train.
Train murder.
A young man
Train that if you have a
desperate for
uterus,
money
you can't
to
ride
cross
because the
Atlantic.
Victorians believed it would
A young
fly out
man
of your
who
body in a
shortly
most
after the
dramatic and
murder
upsetting fashion.
Could the human body even
received a
handle
fine
such speeds?
new Top hat.
Apparently fucking not.
Let Marn go rond.
The inquiries showed that Franz Muller had actually bought a ticket at London.
Okay, that is a
docks
lot of ships.
on
I don't think a Harper would have that many
Tuesday of
ships.
That week, and he'd set
More
sail
ships.
on the Thursday.
Also, you've clearly never seen a
Jonathan
Norwegian port.
Matthews had told the police.
Well, I've seen a lot of
late
ports and stuff, but it was like with the number of
Franz
sails, it
Muller
just
to
seems.
have been caught.
I'm
whilst he
going
was
to go
still
take a picture
in
of
London.
the port in the city, and I hope there's lots of boats when I go
The case
tomorrow.
required a great urgency, and
I mean, there's
the
usually
hunt
like
for
marinas are
Franz
usually pretty
Muller
packed.
began.
Ladies can go faster than 25 miles per hour. Their ovaries will fall out. My
The
goodness.
witnesses were
My
hurried to Bow
goodness.
Street Magistrates Court. Depositions
Actually,
were
no,
taken
just a fun
and
fact, chat.
the
That's not
evidence
connected.
heard. By 6 o'clock on the 19th
Those
of
bits
July,
in there
a
are not
warrant
all
had been
connected to
issued
each
for
other.
Muller's arrest. Tanner had gathered everything he
We can't let
could.
this woman
There
know
was
the
no
train.
more
The
time.
train is the woman and will get
Late that
jealous.
evening, the exhausted inspector boarded an
You know
express
other
train
female
bound
trains.
for Liverpool. With him
Oh my god, we're
were
gonna get
Detective
Azure
Sergeant
Lane, but with
George
trains.
Clark, the jeweler
Wait,
John
someone
I feel
go
like
get
that should
Anna
exist
Markey.
already.
Jonathan Matthews.
Anarchy, I have $1 million idea.
Nah, that's $1 billion idea.
The next morning.
Based on how much like fucking Azure Lane makes or Girls Frontline.
Yeah. Azure Train.
I mean,
There
we
was
could
no
always
other way of
just break out the
The undersea cable would be
I know
another
an
year,
artist
18
that
months
basically
before that
almost
was in
exclusively
position. They were all
does
told
like anime girls
he had
based
to
off
go
of trains.
himself, And he had to get
And their
there
art is so fucking good. I've talked to them about
before
commissions. They're a
the
little
Victoria
expensive,
landed.
Yeah.
but their stuff is hella good.
The huge advantage that the British
I think their name is it's
was
Dro.
that
I think is
they
their
could
name.
use
It's like ZHROV. Drov.
of
CHVOR.
travelling using a
I don't remember.
steam-powered vessel rather than a sailing vessel.
Train hobbies usually are expensive. No, yes. And Zozo
Okay,
can.
Lu- can you
Anna
can you
arrived in
pause
New
the
York
video
on
for
the
me
5th
1
of-
second? I'm gonna go on a tangent.
We also have an ad break.
Yeah. So, Lucian, the issue with that thought process is the fact that once you reduce a person to materials, regardless of how many people it can help, you have now allowed for further exploitation of vulnerable people. And that is what is going to happen. And that is sort of what Henrietta Lacks predated. Black people have been exploited for medical research and treated like basically stock animals from the moment they were forcibly brought over to the States for slavery. So no, we should not exploit someone's corpse just because they're quote unquote dead and not using it, because you're creating an entire ethical issue.
It'd be better if you had just gotten permission before they died.
It would have been, even her family said all you had to do was just ask at one point, I'm fairly certain.
Yeah.
But Black people have been exploited for their bodies since the beginning of slavery. For
If they had just like
hundreds
come to their
of
front
years.
door and been like, your mother died of an extremely rare form of cancer. We would like to study it. Is that possible? But they never did that.
No, they never did that. They
were
just
just
took
like,
them.
all right, they sent out like some guys and were like, all right, this is her grave. Start digging.
That's why ethics exists in medicine, because you can't just take human beings and reduce them down to cells or materials to use for research because, oh, well, it'll help people. Because now what you're doing is you're creating a window for the 1% to exploit all of the rest of us to use our bodies as guinea pigs for whatever fucked up thing they want to do. Yeah, they even asked the family for blood tests for ulterior motives. Yeah, and then they want to patent it too. I don't want my genetics patented. If my genetics can help people one day, I don't want them patented. I just want to sign a consent form. It's not that hard. But because Henrietta was not a white woman, she was viewed as exploitable. And if you want to learn more about the exploitation of Black women in America, look up the history of gynecology. I'm done now. Thank you.
I was gonna say, it also goes back earlier, and not in the same way, but it's also with like the original resurrectionists of Victorian England, because we're talking about Victorian England. They would essentially just dig up random bodies that had been like freshly buried and then sell them to like various medical schools and or people who were like doing these types of research.
Oh, there was a whole corpse trade.
Yeah.
Oh, and the Tuskegee experiment. Yeah.
In quotations, experiment. All right, guys, time to get your vaccinations. Sorry, we gave you, what was it? Typhoid? No. Syphilis?
It was syphilis.
One of the worst diseases in the modern world. Nice. They had to the resurrectionist.
Oh,
just
God.
kind of, take a body and then go sell it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, corpse trade was a huge issue. They were just digging up people because, oh, they're dead, so it doesn't matter. But if I went to my mother's grave, my mother has not passed, and knock on wood that she doesn't anytime soon. But if I went to a family member's grave, thank you. If I went to a family member's grave and their body was just gone, I don't fucking care how many people it helped. I would be royally pissed, and rightfully so.
That's how artists learned anatomy? True, but you could have also gotten permission from people.
Yeah. Just because you happen to benefit from something deplorable does not make the deplorable action correct.
Like, you can very easily, like, people will often be like, if you came to a person who's still alive but potentially dying and be like, I would like to use your body for blah, 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 blah. More than half the time, they would probably say yes, unless they're like hyper religious and believe that like their body has to stay, quote, whole. Which I wish I was joking. My dad was like that. He got mad at me once whenever I was filling out my first driver's license form and I said I wanted to be an organ donor.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, none of my kids are going to be organ donors. I'm going to bury all of y'all whole. I was like, what the fuck does that mean, old man?
Yep. Oh, you can't come back if you don't have all your parts or if you've been cremated. It's a ridiculous fucking issue.
It was illegal by order of the church under penalty of death.
Because you shouldn't be digging up corpses just so you can look at them. They used to have them laying out on rooftops to dry out. It was a fucked up practice.
Carrie, you're thinking of the, I know what incident you're talking about. I think it was the Japanese man. Or was it Russian? I can't remember which. But where they basically they like couldn't save him, but they just kept him alive long enough to study the effects of like radiation death, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, medical history has been absolutely fucked for like the sole purpose of being like, but what if?
Yeah, but what if?
For being an organ donor because she thought doctors wouldn't try as hard to save me if I was dying. Apparently there are like occasionally instances of like heinous shit like that I've heard. Or it's probably just rumors. I think it's just rumors. Ever heard of butter? Yeah. About butter?
Bubber.
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 Does doing experiments on things improve science and save people? Yes. Should it be done unconsensually? No. Correct.
There you go.
All right. I forgot the music was still going. No, you were good. Good tangent. I like tangents.
August. Mueller may have had a 5-day head start.
Sick? Hell yeah.
Reached America first.
Hell yeah. Bubber. Risen Demon, thank you for the follow.
Much for him
I
to
like
do.
bread and bubber and little cured meat on it.
I like my toasted butter bread.
New York City was very much unlike.
Are things researchers who had loose or no morals or ethical oversight? Correct.
Metallic skyscrapers.
But you can still make discoveries and new things in this day and age with ethical oversight.
Still very much embryonic.
Which is, hold on, which is like one of those things that like fucking shitty people all the time like to argue is that like, but we'll never make any advancements with ethical oversight. It's like, how do you think we've made all the medical discoveries of the past like 40 years? I think people fail to realize how much medical like science has advanced just in the past 30, actually just since 2000. While American hospitals may be slow to like implement new and like easier access for like testing and everything.
It's not the hospitals, it's the insurance companies.
Oh, for sure. It's the insurance companies that are always the great brick walls for generally everything in the medical industry. But like advances are constant, almost weekly. You can find papers on like new discoveries, new methods, new implementations, and shit like that is nuts. A recent one was experiments on consenting Alzheimer's patients that came up with a way to slow it down. Yep. Which I think is, if I remember correctly, wasn't their method like a form of vaccine? I think. Something like that. I think it was an injection. Capitalism derogatory, always in this house.
Yeah, no,
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, just because we've made advances through deplorable acts does not mean we don't get to not call the deplorable act deplorable. You have to call it deplorable. You have to make better ways for experimentation. Exactly, Rivet.
It was pure human trash. Same thing with, what was it, Unit 4 something? The Japanese units. I forget the number. 471, 471, something like that. 713. Okay, I was way off.
Do not, unless you're prepared and are in a decent mental state and are not easily triggered by human atrocity, look that up at your own risk.
I recommend looking it up.
I recommend looking it up. I recommend being prepared. Don't look it up if you are having a bad day, is what I'm saying.
If you're having a bad day or you have a queasy stomach. I think these companies are making immense profit on these acts, not paying the people to use assent. Hell, typical paying for the privilege. That's, who was the what? Let me see. Where was the insurance is a parasite industry and shouldn't exist? Correct. Same thing. I'm not going to lie. Most other insurance companies are pretty much the same thing. You will pay infinitely more money into paying for like insurances outside of like medical insurances more often than not too, to the point where when you finally need them, they have the right to just be like, nah. And they're flexing that more and more. They've gotten so bold in this recent year that they're just like wildfire insurance on the West Coast or flood insurance on the East Coast has just been like, oh, your house got flooded during like the hurricane. We're not going to pay it out. Or like the fucking wildlife fire places where people were literally losing their insurance the day before the wildfire hit their house. Like companies were just like I can only assume looking at maps and being like, okay, this is where like our policyholders live. Here's where the wildfire is. It's 0% contained. So like, fuck them. And there's no precedence for like that typically happening because frankly, you would like to assume every human is moral and would be like, we can't do that. This is what they've been paying for. This is like what they need. We're going to give them back what they paid for. But now they're just fucking flexing on the American people and the people that have been paying them. It's insane. It's insane.
It is insane.
Anyway, trains.
Anyway, train murder? So this guy got murked on a train and there was a civil war in America and
they're trying to like make sure the guy doesn't get over there so they don't have to do extradition nonsense.
That was the perception in New York.
Train exploding uterus moment?
Now, there was no extradition treaty between New York State and Britain.
Yeah, it was an
And so
extradition problem.
The first thing that had to be done was that any arrest of Mueller had to be done under American law by an officer appointed by the U.S. Marshal. There was a lot of controversy.
Yes, the U.S. Marshals. I had a family member that was a U.S. Marshal.
To this prisoner.
Yeah, he actually did catch a serial killer once and ended up on like national television giving the interviews for it.
Oh shit.
He was the uncle that passed away from the bird shit disease.
Colleagues from London arrived on another boat with more.
I was talking about it the other day. That's just why I was like, that's the same person. That's the same person.
Oh. Ocean.
The August heat in New York was punishing. Tanner and the other Englishmen.
Ah, yes, the August heat of the early Victorian era. Time for a mint julep.
Street. They waited.
Time to go to the nearest hotel and check out their bar and get myself a mint julep.
A mint julep would be baller right now.
Forced into another port.
More
Or a
ocean.
mojito.
Escaped them after all. With each day, Tanner's
Wee
worries grew
birds.
until finally, on the 24th of August, the Victoria was spotted off the coast.
Ooh.
It had been at sea.
He's on that boat.
6 weeks. Tanner's
Jesus.
long, stifling wait in New York was at an end.
I like
that is
boating, but
that's a longer time than they anticipated
into port.
for like the original transit.
Like I like boating, but I would not be on one for 6 weeks. That's too much ocean.
It couldn't be on one like the Victoria for 6 weeks. I could be on a cruise ship for 6 weeks.
I don't know if I could even be on a cruise ship for 6 weeks. I'd be paranoid about falling off.
By American police before his
I
ship
hold
had
on.
even docked.
Being on a cruise ship was the first time I've ever had like the what was it, like the moment where you're like, this is gonna be morbid, I'm sorry chat, where it's like the call of the abyss, or the like when after you take like medications or something.
Oh, and you get all woozy.
And like they give you warnings at the end. There's like suicidal ideations, and I was like ill from something. It wasn't seasickness. I think it was food poisoning or something. And I was taking like a bunch of medicines to try and like alleviate my symptoms. And I was standing at one of the awnings on the upper deck, and I was like looking at the railing, and I'm just staring down at the water. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm the only person on the deck, and I'm like, what would happen if I jumped off?
No.
And I was like, that's what I was thinking. That's what I was like saying. I was like looking over the edge. I was like, what would happen if I jumped off? And then I like paused. I did think I like look up, and you're like, Jesus, that's morbid. Is this what they talk about whenever they give like side effects of like suicidal ideations? It's like I wasn't gonna do it, but I was like, what would happen?
Don't freak out, everybody. I'm not gonna do what you think I'm gonna do.
Does the poop go into the ocean? Yes.
Yes.
It's also what was it? Cruise ships basically on the open ocean are essentially mobile food islands for smaller fish. So they are prone to having smaller fish follow behind the cruise ship. And you know what happens when you have smaller fish following something, right? Big fish. You get big fish.
Big fish.
It's also, it takes about, I'm trying to remember the exact distance. It's something like, for a cruise ship to pull a 180, it's something like 12 miles, I think. To go from like its cruising speed all the way down to being able to 180 itself. And more than likely, it'll be almost impossible for them to path back to you. That's only if they spot you as soon as you go over the edge of the ship.
That's only if they notice you're gone.
Yeah, like the only chance you have of that happening would be if like people were around you watching. Depends on the size of the ship. I'm talking like the average like Carnival cruise line.
Never mind the fact that depending on like what deck you're on and how high you fall, you crack most of your skull once you hit the water.
Yep. Oh,
That's why a lot.
That's a 25% chance if they spot you.
If
they know you
spot
went overboard, that's a
And it's-
25% chance.
Yeah, if you're in the dark, it's basically considered a miracle.
Yeah, the whole water cement thing, reaching terminal velocity, all that jazz.
Terminal velocity, surface tension, blah, blah, blah. I remember seeing one lady a bajillion years ago on the news that was rescued after she fell over. And I remember that the one thing I
think I know
remember
the one you're
from
talking about.
Remember how black her eyes were? Like how black the black eyes she got? because of her when she hit the water, how hard she hit it. Like, I have never seen black eyes that bad.
Yeah, I think I do remember that. There was also one that was like, I think it was like 2017. There was a lady that like went overboard because she apparently in her drunken stupor, she just flung herself over the fucking edge.
Whee! Don't do that, chat.
But she was lucky that she was like 15 miles off the coast of one of the Caribbean islands, and they sent their Coast Guard to find her. Because the cruise ship was just like, it's going to take us too long to turn around. Contact the local authorities. And they like picked her up.
Yeah.
Granted, it was also like a 4+ hour search for her. But it was
gnarly.
On that train at all, he insisted.
Briggs!
Now, a court in New York.
Water is incompressible. You have to break the surface tension in order to penetrate, much like a relationship with the shy people. You got to break the surface tension.
Yeah, I got kidnapped, and that's how I got here.
That is why if you ever see like Olympic diving, they have a bubbler.
And he appeared before Mr. Newton.
There's a bubbler at the base that keeps the surface tension very light.
Had this court hearing to decide whether Franz Muller was going to be extradited.
Or if you're like doing things like jumping off of bridges and stuff, you bring a decent sized rock with you. You drop the rock and then you jump.
There was a tremendous amount of sympathy for Muller from the immigrant community and hostility towards Britain, so it was going to be difficult.
Define immigrant community.
Advantage that Tanner
Britain?
had.
Britain. Which immigrant community? Which ones?
Extradition could be granted on the grounds that there was sufficient evidence to suggest there was a case to be answered.
Murder will out? What?
They didn't try to defend the British cause. They didn't.
I can't get over this lady. This lady is so goddamn British and looks like she could possibly just be living in Victorian age still. Like this is her home clothes. And she's still wearing 4 rings, 2 bracelets, a watch, and 2 necklaces.
Yeah.
And her name is Rowbottom.
Yep. Welcome to Britain.
The Irish? No, the Irish have been there longer.
Yeah,
no, I was
Irish
thinking like
been there
this is
longer.
like Victorian era. This is probably like there's like the Indian community, which is very large in Britain at the time. And growing.
Emotionalism.
Mr. Newton decided that he should go back.
The Brexit geezer's wife for sure.
Request. If he hadn't done so,
I can't get over the last name Rowbottom.
Free to
Rowbottom.
have been released,
row
and he
your
could have
bottom.
travelled anywhere in America. The chances
Gently
of him
down the
being
brook.
returned to face trial for
Merrily,
the
merrily,
murder of
merrily,
Thomas
merrily.
Briggs would have been very remote.
I did it.
You did fantastic.
Thank you.
With the extradition order secured,
Rowbottom, I hardly know him.
Tanner escorted Muller onto the steamship.
I hate it. I hate it here.
They left New York and America behind.
How could you do
and
this
set
to me?
out once more into the Atlantic. The murder of
Fantastic.
Thomas
Aw,
Briggs had become
Harry.
a sense.
Can you imagine suffering through this 6-week like ride to America and then be like, all right, you're coming back with us?
Oh God.
I think I'd rather probably jump off.
I would just lay down.
I'm gonna stay right here. The next, however long it takes.
I would just lay in the
In the eyes
sand.
of many, the young German was already guilty.
But was he actually?
It was difficult to see that he would actually.
It's a
get
good
fair
question.
hearing, such was the conviction. among the
Shallow.
general
Hi,
public that
shitboys.
He was actually guilty.
Hi,
of
shitboys.
murder.
The British public were intensely
I can smell the British propaganda.
because this was the first
Wait,
ever
why Uganda?
railway
Why Ugandan?
murder, and that was quite
Propaganda.
something. And
You getting the propaganda?
The Fleet Street's
A propaganda.
behemoth, the mass media,
This
the
man's
biggest
hair
mass
looks like a
media the
cloud.
world had ever seen.
His hair has looked like that this entire time, and I keep looking at it. What is Cheshire cheese?
Elixir to them.
What is
Cheshire.
it?
Wait, wait,
Oh,
wait,
Cheshire. No. Cheshire, like the place.
Yeah.
Cheshire cheese.
Hold on. Is
place.
the name though? Is the name Ye Old Cheshire Cheese? That is so funny to me to find out. Like even in fucking like in Britain, in the Victorian era, they still had places calling themselves Ye Old.
Yup.
That's gold.
Is that doubts begin to creep in. The presumptions of his guilt needed to be questioned.
Correct. This is the guy who died.
Despite investigators,
The guy who we were
no one who could
Thomas.
place Mueller at the scene
yeah, we
of
were
the
analyzing.
crime.
I was just making
And
sure. I was
there
trying to
were at least
remember for
5
sure because that was
witnesses
like
who
we keep
spoke to
seeing
two
different
other
people.
men
I'm like,
in
that
the
is not
compartment with Briggs, and
Mueller for
neither
sure.
matched the description of Franz Mueller. But this information was not shared.
What is
with
that
the
thing
defense.
behind basically the
police were
headspace?
then
It looks like a
under
pull
no
cord.
Obligation to do so.
Might be.
In 1864, the deck was stacked against the accused. There was no appeals
Typical.
court. The defendant was barred from giving evidence, and even his
What?
counsel was not allowed to sum up the defense to the jury at the end of the trial.
Huh? Prison.
There was a German legal protection society that operated not only in
Were
London,
prison
but
uniforms
also in
just
New York,
shirts back in the day?
And they were concerned that actually, as a German,
Pretty sure there were
he was being
pants
discriminated against
as well.
and perhaps being treated unfairly.
It had the
A little
feel, rather,
artistic
of,
depiction made it look like they were
perhaps
only wearing
a show
shirts.
trial to some
I'm sure they had
extent.
like
They just wanted to
underoos
rubber
on of
stamp
some kinds.
What the court of public opinion.
Yeah,
had
he
already
had
found
underdressing
to have
and then
been
like a shirt
guilty.
and pants. Usually a simple
Franz
shirt
Mueller's
pants.
trial began at the Old Bailey on the
Bow
27th
Street
of October,
Police Station.
1864. 12 men
The
would
Old
decide
Bailey?
his fate. Over the next 3 days, they heard how the crushed beaver hat found in the blooded compartment matched one belonging to Mueller. They heard
Okay,
about the
so
hat
what
he
if-
had with him in New York.
Sorry, go
which
ahead.
was silk and cut down in the crown.
No, it's just so stupid. It's like, well, these hats match, and it's like, yeah, there can be more than one hat. Did
the
you
thing
know
is,
that?
It's weird to see it like this. This whole thing feels like a weird, like nothing burger almost. I mean, obviously there's a murder, but for it to be like so sensationalized right now, it feels
What
like
if
it's
it was
so
just-
far out there.
What if it was just some drunk dude that just had a wicked, terrible nosebleed?
Yeah, like he ended up having to run off on like not his station and realized later he left his shit.
Exactly. Like, what if he just had a really bad... I've had some horrible nosebleeds. What if it's that? It's a very British thing to have happen to you.
Just imagine him reading the newspaper one day and being like, oh my God. I can't mention this to anybody.
Just can't mention it.
And to alter its
Like-
height. And they heard how police discovered in Mueller's luggage a piece of cloth sewn into a pouch and tied in a ribbon.
Okay.
Inside
Okay, people carry pouches.
was Thomas Briggs' missing gold watch.
Ah.
Oh, okay.
Well.
Okay.
I have to say, it did look bad for Mueller. He looked like the perfect part, on paper at least.
All the defense counsel could do was try and attack the
What
prosecution's
the fuck?
witnesses.
Oh, okay. That's a driver.
Jonathan
That's a
Matthews,
horse
the
whip.
hansom cab driver.
Mhm.
He was particularly savage. By
like, what is
defense
this guy
counsel
holding?
Over a 21-day sentence that he'd served for a minor theft many, many years ago. Defense counsel was really clutching at straws. There was sort of defense witness.
Clutching at
one of
straws.
them-
Okay,
at least
so
one of
these.
them
It
said
sounds like these people
that
also
they
think he
thought
was
that
already
Thomas
guilty.
Briggs had been in the compartment with 2 men on that.
Also, can we talk about how dapper this gentleman looks?
That's a very dapper gentleman.
Again, this is another reason why Britain is the way it is now, because men don't look like this anymore.
You gotta dress dapper.
This is what peak malehood is, okay?
Yeah, you gotta dress dapper. You gotta be fancy.
You gotta have to be a gentleman. You have to understand, be respectable.
Yeah, you gotta have a
The problem
that looks like everyone
is
else's
that
hair.
their witness testimony did not.
It's called dressing
really
classy, if you
make the
will.
Impact that retrospectively it should have done.
Turns Grins into a merman? Congratulations, Grins. You're a merman, but you have
The
an
jury
upper
took
fish half and lower
15
main half.
minutes to make their decision.
Ah.
Mueller was guilty.
At least you get legs.
The judge donned the black cap.
I don't
and
know how
sentenced him
optimal that would
to
be
death.
for swimming, though.
Don the black cap? Oh, okay, wait, I didn't know anything about British judges donning black caps for sentencing.
A raven!
Early on the morning of the 14th
Means
of
death.
November, 1864,
Nevermore.
A gallows was erected
Art-
outside Newgate Jail.
Arty.
Heavy
One
rain
pot's sexy, the
falling,
other
but
pot's
didn't put off
man.
the crowds. They gathered.
One
in
pot
their
classy,
tens of
second
thousands
pot
to watch Franz
man.
Müller die. A few minutes before
One part
with
good.
the prison bell
One part
ringing,
good for dinner. The other
condemned
part.
man was led out.
Yeah.
The crowd roared as Müller.
It's called being able to look respectable upon
the scaffold.
those of you around you.
His legs.
Keep it classy. Keep it common.
Keep it classy.
Placed around his neck, and a white hood pulled down.
A three-piece
over
suit
his
brings
face.
the man together.
Moments before the trapdoor gaped beneath his feet, the 24-year-old spoke in an urgent whisper to the German pastor beside him.
Okay.
Ich habe es getan, he said. Ich habe es allein getan. Ich habe keine Mitschuldigen.
I don't know German.
I did it. I did it alone. I have no accomplice. Then the trapdoor opened, and Müller fell.
Interesting.
But what was the motive? Just to steal a watch?
After months of denying involvement in
Theft
the
gone
crime,
wrong?
Müller
I
had
guess so.
confessed. But mystery
He couldn't bother lying to his
in the
grave.
first-class compartment that summer night. Had Müller
Because the fact that they specifically also gave him a German pastor.
Did he mean to kill Thomas Briggs by throwing him off the train?
Well, if you're going to get your rights
Or
read to
did the old
you, I
man
mean, might as
fall
well be able to
trying to
understand
escape?
them.
Yeah.
I think
I keep looking at that handle too. That handle's really cool.
I mean, his man in his 60s.
Because they keep using that same B-roll.
And I think Miller just saw his opportunity.
He was carrying money in his wallet. He had a silk handkerchief as well as his silk hat. He was carrying a briefcase, which was the type that bankers used to convey bullion or valuables in. I think he must have seemed a very tempting prospect.
It may well.
I mean, it does seem like he was basically like, "This is my chance. This is my chance to go to the new world." Steals the shit, sells shit, gets on boat.
Exactly.
America,
Chat, they weren't
but
hanging him
perhaps
for
didn't
theft. They were
realise
hanging him for murder.
Thomas Briggs.
Yeah, it was for murder, not theft. We're saying that it was probably like the theft was because the robbery went wrong.
This poor banker over the head with his stick, and these things can happen very fast.
No, you're good.
By modern standards, I don't think what took place in that carriage would count as murder.
Well, yeah, he didn't kill him technically. It seems like he threw him out of the train.
At most.
And then he succumbed to
fatal injuries to Thomas Briggs happened.
We'll see. Hold on.
As a result of him falling or being pushed out of the railway carriage.
Yeah, he probably didn't anticipate that he was going to die, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So a robbery gone wrong.
The sensational murder of Thomas
How much is a
Briggs
lot?
did nothing to slow the advance of the railway.
I don't think anybody should have the death penalty,
Engines
technically.
became more powerful. Passengers
Unless
more
under
numerous.
severely
But
heinous.
as this technological boom grew and grew,
As someone
so
who has
did the
had
opportunities
things
for the greedy
TM happen to
and
her,
the
there are
violent.
certain instances where we
Franz
could
Müller has
apply
gone
the
down
death
in
penalty.
British history as the
Yeah.
first railway murderer.
But we don't need to talk about that.
would
We
not
really
be
don't
the
need to talk
last.
about that.
Predators, I can understand. Especially predators that basically ends in their best. It's basically the the ready or not path where it's all right, guys, time to hide the evidence. Kill the kids and put them in a barrel.
I remember that mission. Whee! Train!
Can we get another one? Is that what this is? This could be multiple episodes in a row. Is that all this is?
I think so.
From town
Whee!
to town and city to city, the
Down
tracks
to town.
spread. They changed the way
Trains
we
for
live
everyone
forever.
except for America.
But there was a
No
darker
women on the
side to
trains,
the
for their
advent
uteri will explode.
This
My uterus is practically
technological
exploding
revolution
already.
offered
Congratulations.
new opportunities for the
Is that going to be the bit
crime.
for stream?
Yeah.
Is that the bit?
My uterus
We'll be
exploded.
investigating
Congratulations.
the most notorious murders ever to take place on the British railways.
You did it!
Stories of the men
You
who
did
killed,
it. Congratulations.
of the police who hunted them,
Congratulations!
and of the victims.
We have trains in
who were
America, they
left
just suck and
behind.
don't usually have passengers.
From
And
the files
Amtrak
of
is overly
Scotland Yard
expensive for
and
what
the
it
railway
is.
Police, This is the history.
All right, guys,
of
want to spend
blood on the
$70 for an
tracks of
overnight train, but all you get is what is essentially a bus seat. And if you don't want a stranger sitting next to you, you have to buy 2 tickets. Okay.
I'd rather put up with a stranger sitting next to me on a train than a stranger on a plane.
From the moment he set eyes on her,
A plane's much
he
shorter
was
than a train
obsessed.
ride.
In 1878,
A train is also
Violet
on the
Cameron
ground.
Was just 15, but she was
Can get
already a
off early
star
on a train
the
if I
London
want.
stage.
A plane is a plane.
To 18-year-old
Oh no, the first
Percy
person we're
LaFroy
introduced to is a
Mapleton,
15-year-old
she was
ballerina. This is
her.
going to go well.
He was a poor and sickly
So she was
young man.
15 and
Violet
he was
didn't
an
even know he existed.
18-year-old
But
sick
Lafroy
guy.
was
Okay.
convinced they belonged together. He would go to
Oh, no.
any
That poor
lengths
girl.
to
Oh,
win her.
no.
He would lie for her. He would steal for her. And eventually, he would kill for her.
Or kill her.
I think for her is very interesting. I'm curious what his like full
This is a man
besides her being the
lives
motive.
so much
I
in a
want to know what the thing
fantasy
is that's
world
like, huh?
that
Yeah,
he
we'll kill
has
him.
virtually no sense of reality.
Probably
And
someone
till
that he
it's too
interpreted
late.
as a romantic
eternal
rival,
schoolboy.
despite the
It's
fact
all
that
fantasy
she is
and little boy. He
15.
creates a whole
Probably. This is
fictitious
also Victoria
romance.
England,
had
so
a-
like
A sense of being invisible.
Well,
perhaps,
okay,
as he
so
was,
that's a
growing
common
up, and
misconception
needs to
that like
make
super
something of
young
himself.
marriages were actually a thing. They weren't because
oh no, I was gonna say marriages. I was gonna say some sort of like
Yeah.
prospects was probably a thing among teenagers very frequently.
it was more prospects, and like if a family wanted 2 of their teenagers to be wed together, they would essentially just do years and years and years of established what essentially would be play dates or visitations that were heavily supervised.
Yeah.
And then once they were deemed old enough to actually wed, usually, you know, once the lady was of bearing age, which is still gross and sexist and icky and bad, and I hate it, then they would actually be wed, because there is no sense in trying to make a 15-year-old give birth to a child. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm not saying it didn't happen at all. I'm saying it didn't happen anywhere near as frequently as everybody tries to say it does during this time period. It's the same issue I take with corsets. In that, you know, they're framed as this super dangerous, super misused thing. But no, it's not. There were rules for courting and rules for courtship. And this man probably saw this young ballerina and probably saw someone that was, I'm going to
It very
predict
much,
that he saw.
I think the best way you could think of in like modern terms, it's very much a senior high schooler falls in love with freshman high schooler.
Yeah, but in the modern day, we would know better than to allow that.
It's
icky.
The changes that take place from being like a freshman in high school to being a senior is nuts.
I don't want to get into this because it's a conversation that tends to bring out a lot of weirdos. All I'm going to say is that in the 3 years that take place by when you're 15 to the time you're 18, you do undergo a lot of changes, and very, 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 very quickly.
It was
That's
like one of
all
those
I'm
things
going
where
to
like
say.
I remember being in high school and only being like a junior, maybe even when I was a senior, and seeing like the incoming freshmen and being like, those are babies. What the fuck are they doing here?
Mm-hmm.
Be like, damn, I guess I was a baby when I came in.
Yeah, no, it's a difference. And I'm going to predict that he saw somebody that was more than likely her family member hanging around her. He saw them as a romantic rival and then killed them to try to impress her or some bullshit. But it was going to be like her dad or her brother or her cousin, uncle, whatever.
I wouldn't doubt it. Or like because she's like crazy popular, like on the stage and stuff, that she's gonna be, she's gonna like find somebody that's like higher class than him.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, hi Kenshi, how are you doing?
Percy Lafroy Mapleton
Lafroy.
dreamed of becoming a writer, and he could certainly
Oh.
tell a tall tale.
Oh.
He posed as a young man of education and wealth. He told some people he was related to an earl.
He
claimed
what?
his father had been a prominent clergyman. To others, he was Belgian nobility or a partner in a grand firm of
okay, he was
solicitors.
charlatan.
In fact,
Ah,
Lafroy's father
he was a liar.
was an alcoholic Royal Navy captain who showed no interest in his son. And his mother died of tuberculosis when he was just 6
Ah,
years
yes, the big
old.
TC.
Not the tuberculosis disease that the Victorians
He
would
was
get on
sent to live
purpose
with an
because they
aunt
thought it would make
and
them
his
look
2
hot.
cousins.
Oh,
And
yeah,
now he
the
was brought up
thinness.
For the next 14 years.
Yeah, the
His
thinness and the
chest was
paleness.
weak, his health
Chin.
was weak. So
She
he was
said your
always a
chest weak,
concern
your
for his
health weak, and your paper weak.
I went to your neighborhood and they said they don't know you.
And they said you're not a jolly good show. They said you're a miserable bad show.
Just I'm imagining that one guy that was like pretending to do like the old British like disses, but he's like saying this stuff and like throwing money at the dude.
family in a way that ensured that the consequences
Corner time.
of his actions
I had corner
don't
time.
seem to have been brought home to him as part of his
Both
growing
corner
up.
time or
He
just like
seems
timeout time,
always
sitting on the
to
second step
have
on the stairs.
Indulged in petty
I had corner time in school.
deceptions,
I had a
petty
room
lies,
when I went home.
and to have got away with it.
Here is someone who was
The
rather
naughty
invisible as
step.
a child, like was
The
desperate
naughty step.
to
Ooh,
make a mark
I
in
used
the
to be
world.
on the stairs.
that
I've
seemed
been a
so
bad
hostile,
baby.
At least in his early years.
I've been a bad bitch. This is what I've been. I don't know why I continue to talk like
Freud's
this.
obsession with the young
It's quite
actress
amusing,
Violet
though.
Cameron was
You see,
utterly
my good
consuming
friend,
him.
the reason I am
He
here
told
in this corner
relatives they
today
were
is
married.
because I like
He
bad
haunted the
bitches, and that's
theatres
my
where
problem.
The way I'm picturing that though is it's just like you, but you're like 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I always like that. I like that bit in like some things where like people like overvoice like their cats or like they're like
Yes.
toddlers or something, and it's just that.
Mhm. Yeah, like really dramatic. No one puts baby in a corner.
Wait,
do the
hold on. I need the one because there's a lady who makes comics, and I sent one of them to you recently.
Mm.
Oh, here it is. I have it. And her whole thing is that like it's herself and her pets typically, but she does it in like she's writing letters and stuff in old time. Dear eunuch, thou hast been on my court for 12 turns of the sun, meaning that thou must now be 13 or 14 winters old. And then the cat like tunes in, but I am still baby, my liege. Thou art baby indeed, eunuch.
Thou art baby indeed.
And like I found her Tumblr weirdly enough while I was looking at World of Darkness stuff. Don't know how that came up, but it was very cute. And I found that her Tumblr was just full of these like little comics like that. But I am still baby, my liege. Thou art baby indeed.
Thou art indeed baby. Thou may continue thy activities.
Someone draw Faye with a monocle and a cane. Give Faye a fancy suit and tails. But the
Wear
tails are
fancy suit.
tentacles.
Tentatails?
Tentatails.
She
Tentatails.
performed, and he even found out where she lived.
No, go to the corner.
And
It's almost
followed
90
her
degrees
when she
there.
went
God damn it.
It's too hot. I'm going to perish in all
Before
this
he
heat.
wanted to become a theatre
Oh,
critic.
ordain
and I
rain
think
as
this is
fast
when
as he could to hit the Faye button.
Spotted.
Remember to
and
check out Faye's
conceived his
YouTube.
passion for
My
Violet
goodness,
Cameron.
I should be having a new video coming out
She'd
soon.
been on the stage since she was about
I
8.
interviewed a
She
very
was a
talented,
popular
very
singer,
wonderful
and
artist
she
by the name of
would
Smog.
perform in light
The Smog Teeth.
operettas.
The
It was one of the
Smog
few
Teeth.
professions where women almost sort of rivaled men in terms of the celebrity status that they could achieve.
It's true.
Percy Lefroy Mapleton longed for her to be in his life.
Longed.
So she's the star that he's fixed his hopes on.
Also, his last
that
name
he
is
hopes
Mapleton.
by-
Like, come on, dude.
Yeah, the thing too I'm also trying to figure out is I don't think he worked at this theater. The thing I'm having here is this is just parasocial nonsense.
Yeah, it is.
This is just the Victorian equivalent of fucking like somebody falling in love with a celebrity and thinking that like they're gonna get married.
Some
sure did
kind
believe it.
of ploy and machination to attain.
Oh?
If only he could find a way into Violet's world, present himself
How could you
as
possibly
a man
do
of
it?
means, a man of talent.
How?
Then surely she would see his worth. She would be his. Lefroy concocted
She's
an ambitious
15.
The thing too with like some of these charlatans that are really stupid is they can't have a consistent lie for some reason.
No.
If for some reason, if you just had a consistent lie and one that like probably couldn't be proven or taken away from you, Just stick with that one, my guy.
Oh, but Marin, that would make so much sense.
Then they wouldn't be real charlatans now, would they?
They wouldn't be charlatans. You can't make sense to be a charlatan.
In March 1881, he wrote to theatre newspaper The Era. In his letter, Lefroy announced the existence of an unpublished comic opera written by Jacques Offenbach.
Comic opera?
The popular French-German composer was in no position to deny Lefroy's claim. He had conveniently died the previous year. Lefroy used the
conveniently died.
The fucking depictions of this man, though, Jesus, sir. They are roasting you.
They really are.
Good Lord.
Hi, Killer.
Hi,
Killer.
Into a friendship with the Welsh tenor and theatre manager Henry Bracey.
What you looking at, Ordain?
Lefroy promised Bracey exclusive
Hath thou
rights
chin not
and set
maximized?
about finding a composer
Can't believe
to
it.
counterfeit the work. But
Yeah,
then,
imagine
in
being
May
told your death was
1881,
convenient.
Lefroy
I hope my
had a
death is an
sickening
inconvenience.
news. Violet, his Violet,
Oh, I shouldn't say those things.
was engaged.
She's engaged, you fool. You never stood
That's
a chance.
She never ever met him.
Oh,
But
okay,
he
so I was
always
kind of
seemed to
right.
think
She did
that
have
he had actually declared
person.
his love, and
It was
that she
probably
declared her
arranged.
love for him.
I don't think there can be any doubt that he was.
He has the reach-in of a river otter.
Obsessed with the idea of somehow.
God damn it, Faye
getting
died. That was
close
so
to
inconvenient.
Violet Cameron.
We had dinner planned tonight.
All right, I'll resurrect myself. Goodness.
Lefroy kept to his room by day.
Good thing I
At
wasn't
night,
an organ
he
donor
wandered
so
the
I could
streets
keep
in
my
a
body
fog of
whole, because
jealousy
apparently
and
that's
rage.
how that works.
Then he changed
Sure.
his plans. Lefroy told the tenor, Henry Bracey, that his wealthy benefactor
Hast
had
thou thine
died.
maiden
The
twath
Offenbach
engaged, thine
manuscript
been
had been
penis
left to
objected?
Lefroy, as well as £1,000 a year. And that would
detected,
rise
opinion
to
rejected.
£10,000 should Lefroy
Thou
marry.
nothing more than the
He
royal
was
cock.
convinced that Bracey
Oh my
could
God,
introduce him to
no.
Violet, and she would have no excuse to turn him down.
No excuse.
There was just one problem. Lefroy
I was gonna say, the fucking people that are like, there's no excuse. I can come up with one, like, on the spot. It's like, I don't like you. That's an excuse, baby.
For murder?
No, I was gonna say, like, whenever, like, this, the people that do this, where they're like, oh, she has no one, therefore it has to be me. That's like, that's narcissistic shit right there.
Yeah, no, that's bullshit.
And it's just one of those things that's like, nah,
Mm-hmm.
no thanks.
No.
I have a successful ballet career ahead of me. Why would I possibly go with you, you weak-jawed simpleton?
You have no chin.
could
Also,
pose
she's a
as rich
child.
man. He fancied that he had the manners and the bearing,
I'm going to
but he
keep
couldn't
screaming
write an
that.
opera.
They're about
He found
3
a
or 4 years
composer
apart,
to
but I don't know
forge
how
it.
many years this is like
But the man
progressed
wanted
on already. I don't know if we're still in the same year as this
£50, Lefroy
original
didn't
setting
have.
was.
Look, they gave me 15 for her and 18 for him to work with.
Personally,
Therefore, I will
Lefroy
yell
Mapleton at
constantly
stage
that is
was
a child. Step
presumably
away
even
from the
more
child, sir.
desperate than normal.
I
He
feel like
seemed
that's
to
a normal
have,
and reasonable
run out of
reaction.
money
Yes.
completely.
He's put himself in a position
Crimson
where
Chin, thou art
he
not.
needs to pay £50
Not the
to a
crimson
composer.
chin.
What's
if
better,
he's
no chin or
going to be
Habsburg
able
chin?
to produce anything, to be
Habsburg
able
chin.
to carry through his scheme.
No,
at least
because
to meet
Habsburg
Violet,
chin means I've been
even
inbred
if it
beyond
never gets
inbred.
stayed.
I'd rather not.
And your brain is the size of a walnut and your heart is full of water.
Yeah, exactly.
Your kidneys are non-existent.
Can't believe it. She said I ain't got no kidneys.
I was gonna say that. I think that was the autopsy of one of the Habsburg. Was that Richard?
The famous one in the painting, his head was like full of water and his brain was half missing, and
Looked like a black shriveled nut.
yeah. He was like tore up from the floor up, basically.
Ordain, are you just having a good time over there?
Ordain's just vibing.
I feel like I wish I could give Ordain like his own version of like the creature emotes so bad because I think it'd be so fucking
Aw.
funny.
That would be cute.
But like
Maybe
Maya's
one day.
emotes are so good by themselves. Charles II of Spain, yes.
Yeah.
I also think of the Habsburg also being SCPs is funny as fuck to me. New Kickstarter fund? Do you mean like the new Ko-fi goal?
He's got money owing, he's got goods in porn, and he has...
What do you mean he's got goods in porn?
No,
I think they meant pawn. Like P-O-P, not P-O, P-A-W-N, pawn, but British accents.
Yeah, okay.
Lefroy despaired. He had promised Bracey
He
the
was
opera by
really
July.
depressed.
He'd pawned his best clothes and owed money all over town. But then, a friend...
Pawn the British? Okay, that's what I figured.
On
It's just the way she
24th of
said it,
June,
and the
Lefroy
captions
met
even
the
thought
man
it was
at Charing
porn.
Cross Station. His
Yeah,
friend
her accent
cheerfully
got a
handed
little
him a
too
check
posh.
and dashed away to his train. Lefroy, giddy with excitement, hurried to the bank. But his friend had lied. The check was no good. There was no money.
What
All
a
Lefroy's
dick!
promises and his grand plans
No
came
money for
crashing
you!
down. In a matter of days, he would be exposed as a charlatan, and his dream of winning Violet's heart would
Charlatan.
crumble.
I know
He
what I have
had
to do. I have to kill everybody.
Marin, no.
Hi, Dorothy.
On Monday,
It's what
the
must be done,
27th
Faye.
of
They
June,
all must die.
1981, Percy Lefroy
Yes.
Mapleton
It's the
was
only way.
He lived with his cousin Annie
I'm
and
getting
her
the
family
nuke.
in the town of Wallington.
How does the
South
train
London.
factor into
He
this
told them
murder?
he worked
Also,
as a
hello,
journalist
Dorothy.
for the Era newspaper, but that was just another lie. His days were spent obsessing over the young actress Violet
Wait.
Catlar. He worked as a journalist for her family in the town of Wallington, South London. He told them he worked as a journalist for the Era newspaper, but that was just another lie.
God fucking damn
His
it,
days
sir.
were spent obsessing over the young actress Violet Cameron and
God,
scheming
he
up
really was
ways
just
to
one of
win
those
her heart.
celebrity creeps.
Mm-hmm.
Lefroy was
Actually, I
desperate
cashed in my Baron
His
insurance.
debts were growing.
I'm sorry, we've
His
decided
opera
to
scam was
discontinue
about
your
to fall
insurance
apart.
as of just before you decide to file
But
this
that
claim.
Monday, he swore
Not
was
the
the
Baron
day he would
insurance.
fix all that.
The Baron insurance is basically the same thing as the carnival quote unquote
There is
insurance,
this
where people don't
crisis.
die
He
at the
hasn't
carnival.
got
We
the
just
offer
maim them
bar
beyond
script.
recognition.
He's in debt. He's pawning his clothes.
Or that just
He
kind
is
of
a
patches them up.
desperate
Sometimes it
man.
kind of depends.
He thought
Depends on the show.
somehow
Depends what the show
along
needs.
the lines, Perhaps. that
Gotcha. No,
if
that
he
makes
could
sense.
steal
Sometimes the
some
show needs
money
spare body
or
parts, so it doesn't
something
bring them
or other,
back.
Then his
Well.
problems would be solved, and he would move on to realize his ambitions.
I
Oh
think
God,
it's a
what is
measure of
happening in
just
that
how
fucking
deep
picture?
His obsession was.
I have no
That
idea.
he doesn't seem to look beyond a desperate scheme to acquire money.
So he's Ed from Ed, Ed, and Eddie.
Just before 10 a.m., Lefroy called for his favorite nephew,
Do you know
Melville.
and Ed, Ed, and
He had
Eddie,
an
all of them are
errand
supposed to be like
for the boy.
10.
He pressed a letter into the
Yeah.
7-year-old's hand and asked him
They're
to
like
run it over
fifth
to a
graders
nearby
going into
Newgate.
sixth grade, I think.
Melville
Yeah.
delivered the letter to Albert Ellis at his
For the mage
shop.
game? Damn.
It said that Melville's
Damn.
mother, the
Guess I'm the only one that brought
Annie, had an
invulnerability to
order
the table.
place and asked Mr. Ellis to please call on them at once.
The bell damage to the door.
After luring the newsagent
Ding,
away,
ding.
Lefroy snuck out of the house and around the corner to the shop. He owed Ellis more than £1 and told the young assistant left in charge he wished to settle his bill. Lefroy handed the teenager an envelope telling him it had 2 sovereigns in it. The shop boy gave him 13 shillings in change. The teenager didn't open the envelope until Lefroy had left, and inside were
Was nothing.
a single shilling and 2 worthless antique medals.
Wow.
Having settled his debt and made a pretty profit doing so, Lefroy hurried away to Wallington.
Why would you give
Station.
somebody change
He
without
caught
checking the amount that they
10:49
gave
train to
you?
London Bridge.
Poor
It's a
teenager.
child.
It's time for the
Yeah,
next part of his
a
plan.
teenager.
He headed for Borough High Street. At number 25 stood the Adams and Hilstead pawnbrokers.
I mean, this is a
Teenagers
huge
have been-
city. How could you
London was
have run out of
saturated
places to
with
pawn and
pawnbrokers
fucking push
at the
money
time.
around?
We need not think of this necessarily as something that was just for the destitute.
You pledge an article.
Where you
and
go and ordain.
You can borrow money against that article, and then when you've
Ordain!
got the money back again, you can redeem it. If the ticket wasn't redeemed at the declared time, then the pawnbroker would sell the items and make his profit that way.
The pawnbroker's function was there to enable you to keep up a facade of respectability. It's
People would
absolutely
sell their
telling
things just so that they could
the
keep up their
two
whatever
busiest
class they were
days
in.
For the pawnbroker was Saturday and Monday. You get your wages, you go, you redeem your Sunday best, you wear it out for whatever purpose, and then come Monday, you brush it down, make it look as respectable as you possibly can, and you return it to pawn.
Okay.
I guess.
Lefroy was a
Okay.
regular customer at
I
the
guess.
pawnbrokers. He'd pledged an overcoat there for 10 shillings. He'd got more than £1 for his dress suit, and he'd received
Again, that's
another
pawn,
5 shillings
everyone.
for a
Pawn.
6-chambered
Pawn.
revolver.
Pawn.
On the morning of the 27th
He's
of
renting this
June,
S-suit with
Lefroy
extra steps?
came
Exactly.
to get his pistol
Yep.
back.
Oh, his pistol.
Well, someone who was using pawn shops
He was gonna
to
commit
quite the
a
excessive degree that
murder.
Lefroy is suggestive of rather a roguish, shadowy figure.
We're not talking about lots of money. We're talking
If only he was
about
cool
5
enough to be able to
shillings
do
or
that instead of just
pound
being a
or
shitty
10
little
shillings,
liar with a
tiny
weak
sums of
chin.
money, all of which help him exist on a sort of a day-to-day basis.
It suggests someone.
Be like me, sir.
who's on
Have
the
a pointy
margins of
chin.
deprivation,
Have
who
a
doesn't
villainous pointy
secure,
chin.
Solid.
I say totally being a chibi with a round head.
Grounded existence, which is what the
Yes, you
Victorians
very
told
much
people
have
they
a
should aspire to.
Villainous point.
Lefroy returned
Dewey, for real, thank
to
you for the
London
follow. Welcome in.
He bought
Enjoy
a
the show.
first-class ticket for Brighton.
How are you doing?
In the waiting room,
You
under
had-
cover
is
of
the
a
chin?
newspaper, he loaded
Yeah,
his gun.
excellent.
It was nearly
Round.
2 o'clock. The Brighton Express train was getting ready to depart when Lefroy hurried down.
Extendo neck.
Wiggle, wiggle,
They're
wiggle.
all individual compartments in those days, so you couldn't get on.
Saying he has a
one
weak
part
chin
of the
implies he has
train
the chin at all.
and walk
I mean, he
down
has a little
the
weird,
corridor
weird shape
to
there.
find who you were looking for.
He'd hoped to commit a robbery without violence.
The ironic thing about that is
simply
part of it's
waving
bone
the
structure, the
pistol
other part is
in the
posture.
Face of some
Yeah.
timid commuter.
That's like
would
most of it is
enable
posture.
him
Whenever you have like a chin
to
like that,
commit a robbery.
it's because
and
you
get
have usually a
away with
really
it.
bad
But
underbite.
it was so
Well, technically, I think it's
ill
overbite.
thought through.
Your jaw is farther back than it should be.
He spotted a man sat alone in a
And
first-class
now, woo.
compartment. He was eating strawberries. Lefroy
Strawberries?
climbed in.
A very
2 minutes
important
later, the
detail,
train
the
pulled
eating
out
of the
London Bridge
strawberries.
Station. And soon,
Probably 'cause
row
the
after
tray of
row
strawberries
of
was still
tightly
there.
packed streets were flashing by the window. But faced with the reality of what he had planned,
This food goes straight
Lefroy
to his mouth, his
faltered.
lap. Oh no.
Every time he glanced at the man seemed to stare back. Lefroy grew nervous.
Can't even be a good
Man
thief. He
was
just got that weird little
looking
stare
at him
down.
in a peculiar way. Well, President Lefroy Mapleton was a bit odd himself. Now, we know subsequently from
The
other
7 mile
evidence that the man
strawberry
was Lord
stare.
Austin. Now, Lefroy
Odd.
thinks from the man's stares that he knows that Lefroy is going to attack him, is going to kill him. He becomes frightened. What he doesn't know is that Austin is staring at him because Austin is incredibly short-sighted. And he's staring at him to try and focus, but Lefroy completely misinterprets him.
Ah, and he panics.
Lefroy could bear it no longer. At East Croydon, he got out. And further down the train, he saw another man sitting alone in another first-class compartment. He was dozing with a handkerchief over his head.
Mr. Gold
Lefroy
drops his purse.
reboarded the train.
Huh.
This time, he told himself, he wouldn't hesitate. If dear Violet was to be his,
Hesitate.
now was the time for courage.
Oh, now you're gonna have courage, you little coward.
The train accelerated to its top speed of 50 miles an hour.
My
It
goodness, how will the
whistled
women
into
survive?
darkness of
Every
Merston
woman on board promptly lost their organs.
It was a bloodbath. There were organs everywhere.
Organs!
The train sped on south.
So many
Soon,
organs!
It rattled past the cottage of Anne Brown in Hawley, through the windows of her front room.
Oh yeah, we
Mrs.
know he's
Brown
like
and
he's
her
basically
daughter
he's
had
a
clear view
known
of the
liar who
passengers
probably wasn't
inside.
nearly as educated as he pretended to be.
According to the two women, they
And
were
he was a nervous wreck more than half the
watching
time.
the trains go by.
Plus,
just
he's
passing
desperate.
an idle hour.
They thought they saw two men fighting together in one of the compartments.
Sir, you had a gun. You had one job. If you were going to kill a man and take his stuff, you really should have just aimed for the head.
But I suspect that they at least saw something, the beginnings of an attack.
Hmm.
The train was soon approaching the outskirts of Brighton. At 3:20 p.m., it pulled into Preston Park Station, a mile and a half.
Oh, he
north
did this
of
in the middle of the
town
day,
centre.
not even like a late night
Waiting
train or
on the
anything.
platform was ticket collector Richard
And
Gibson.
Brighton, ooh.
As the train slowed, he saw
Not
a
very
man
smart,
leaning
sir.
out of a first-class compartment, beckoning to him.
Immediately,
Hey, come here.
you saw something wrong because he wasn't wearing a hat. All men wore hats. And not only did he have
See,
no
this is why
hat,
men aren't men
but
anymore.
he
Sorry,
was
sorry,
covered in
gentlemen.
blood.
You're all ladies now. Put on a hat.
He was in a
Didn't wear
very
hat.
physically shaken state. He was in a very mentally shaken state.
When they looked at him, they looked at his
That's very
feet.
interesting. I thought it was always
And
just
from
thing
his
like a
shoe,
fashion of the time. I guess it
could
is. It
see
would
that
technically be
was a
fashion of
There
the time.
was dress. There was. It was
So,
the fashion of the time. There were dress codes on
ticket
trains.
collector pulled on a gold chain
Places had
and
dress
then
codes.
came out a gold watch. from
Silly,
his
silly
shoe.
dress codes, but
He
dress
said, "Well,
codes
what's
all the
this?"
same.
And Percy left
What's
on
all
the
this
said,
in?
"Well, I don't know anything about this." Later on,
What?
he claims that it
There's
was
a
his
watch in
chain
your
which
shoe,
he'd actually
sir.
put into his shoe.
I don't know anything about
for
that.
sa-
Oh,
for
that's mine.
safekeeping.
I must have dropped
think
it.
he was just in a state of shock, a state of panic, and he never subsequently achieved real clarity.
Oh. It sounds like such a massive level of
Another
regret
ticket
of what he did
collector and the station
that it just
master
kind of
gathered
broke him.
around Lefroy. He told the railwaymen that he'd been attacked on board, fired at 3 or 4 times, and struck over the head with a blunt instrument.
Sure.
The
What a
compartment was
terrible
covered
lie.
in blood. There were bullet holes in the cushions. There were bloody fingerprints on the footboard. But there was no sign of the man with the handkerchief.
Another one that got thrown out the window.
Wouldn't surprise me.
That's how it used to be. Come out with a hat or without a hat. Doctors did it different back in the day. What?
Percy Lefroy Mapleton
Scoffs
was a
from under a
good
huge
liar.
wizard hat.
He always had been.
Imagine
You're all
Now
pathetic.
found bloodied and bruised in a train compartment at
Oh, here,
Preston
let me get
Park.
my. Where
He
is
had
it?
quite the story to tell.
Initially, the railway staff are puzzled they can't make any sense.
You're all pathetic.
Of Lefroy's story.
Oh
He
my
says
god!
that,
Is that? Do you have a hat?
I have a top hat.
by two
Did
men,
you just
one
put on a top hat?
countryman and
And
the
it was
other
one
an
that
old gentleman.
Fairbanks
He
made for
very
me.
quickly changes
Aw.
his story so that the elderly gentleman isn't
In case you want to know how
the
old it is,
it's
it actually
only
says on the name of the file,
The
Top Hat
elderly
by
gentleman
Hammer.
sort of disappears.
Oh wow!
Except that
From the before time.
later on, he reappears and the countryman disappears briefly, and it
We need a
is the
bigger.
elderly
We
gentleman
need a larger
who
top
is
hat. There we go.
attacking him.
Fantastic.
Eager.
They saw that he was obviously in a state.
Yeah, by
so
Hammer.
The station master made sure that the ticket collector
The one
got
and
back
only.
on the train with Percy Lefroy Mapleton.
We're also about to have an ad
and they
break,
took
and
him
I am going to need to run to the
down
bathroom.
line to Brighton to the end. At Brighton, the police inspector started.
So ad break is going to start any second, guys. I'm going to give it to Faye. Faye, you're in charge. You can bully them.
Okay. Okay. Hi, chat.
I need to run to the bathroom, and I need to put I need to move my laundry to the dryer. So I will be back.
Okay. Have
The
fun
ads
with
have top
the
hats.
laundry.
Scatter.
Top hats. Do your words, children. Your words. No riots, only words. You must exercise your brains. Indubitably. Oh dear. Oh dear. No arson. Oh, excuse me. You can wait for the ringleader to get back before you commit a arson. Come now. There you go. Stop arson about Ordain. Oh my goodness. Oh, we're doing so good, everyone. Wonderful. Only 3 more. Yes, quite. I took that from Wallace and Gromit. Wallace and Gromit is cute. I wish we had more stop motion claymation things in the world. It'd be nice. It would be very, very nice. Ooh, we're getting close. Ordain, you can cast all the fire all you want to, honey. It doesn't make much of a difference. This I promise. I keep having to actively resist slipping into a silly, over-exaggerated British accent chat, and it is entirely this video's fault. You don't need liquid hydrogen. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh bother. I don't want to do a silly British accent because then I'm going to get stuck in it and I'm going to be stuck that way. I don't want to be stuck that way. I can chortle and guffaw. Not the chortle and guffaw. Oh no. We are not calling it the Fey-Knighted Kingdom. No. Oh dear. No. That's liquid nitrogen, Rivet. Hydrogen is different. You're thinking of liquid nitrogen. That's the very cold thing. That would embrittle everything. Carry, spray bottle. No. None of that. No! Look, chat words. Look at them.
United Femdom, where?
No! Do not encourage this behavior!
Where is it? I heard there was
here.
United Femdom here.
There's no United Femdom.
Oh, but it sounds like so much fun.
I don't want to go to work today.
I'm retired.
I'm retired.
You can't do this to me.
You can't do this to me. I retired ages ago. My days of doming Twinkie femboys ended long beyond the point where you came into existence. Forsooth and all that.
Forsooth.
Forsooth and chortle and guffaw and British.
United Femdom sounds like a sex worker union. That'd be a good name for a sex worker union.
One for working individuals because it's not just ladies' union.
Yes, you can quote it.
Yes, my days of doming Twinkie femboys are long gone. As times have passed, I'm ancient now.
Hector-kitting it with the harumph.
Yes, the harumph. The harumph-to-frumph is I'm very tired. I don't have time for brats anymore. They wear on my patience.
They'd be represented by Kono? Absolutely fucking not.
If you think that's a twink, you haven't looked
it's Kono being like the representative lawyer.
I don't think
Kono would be a good fit for being the lawyer for a union.
I just don't think it would be the right kind of lawyer. I don't know. I don't know anything
Kono has
about
the
lawyering.
personality where it's like he doesn't have the like quite proper personality, I think, to be. I don't know. I just can't take him seriously. Imagining him as like around sex workers professionally.
All right, I know what I have to do.
Is it get a law degree? Unionize
I'm
the
gonna be a
twinks.
lawyer.
The twinks aren't allowed to unionize. Just ask the paranormal twinks.
It's true. If you don't think
Sex
so,
is
you aren't good at it.
Good at
True.
it.
That is the truest statement ever made. Unionize the dominatrixes. We
Okay, yes.
tried, broth. We made an attempt at it forever ago, before you were even a twinkle in somebody's balls.
I can imagine, I don't know why, I'm half imagining it as like a scene from the Boondocks where it's like a pimp named Slipback is like, and yo bitches will try to unionize. And what do you do when yo bitches try to unionize? You get new bitches.
You get new bitches. That's what, I mean, we tried. Me and the girlies, we tried.
Local 69 Dom Union, amazing.
We got caught up in the logistics.
It's always the logistics that get you.
Yeah. I'd be a part of a dominatrix union.
It's usually, sometimes too, like getting stuck in the logistics of a union is sometimes just because you're overthinking it, as opposed to using it as just like group bargaining power.
Yeah.
Like keep it simple at first, and then if you need to like compound things for the union, then that's where you work from there. Like you're using it as group bargaining power. So in this case, get everybody together, and then all of you as one will agree that you are not going to work for anything less than like this list of things. And then you work from there. Your goal is to pressure the boss.
Well, yeah, but given that a lot of those positions, because I'm not trying to get zapped by John Twitch today, are essentially treated as independent contracting with independent licensing, that can be a little bit...
It depends on the job. I was more talking in general.
No, in general. A unionized, like, let's say, a unionized dungeon, though, that would be pretty cool.
I can see it. It's the hardest thing, too, with the, I see more knives, or they know, but it's the thing, like, anytime you do that, you do run the risk of the boss being like, I can just find new employees, fuck it.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the issue with
But that's
doing
the goal,
it.
the goal is to pressure them. That's another form of pressure that you put on a business owner or whoever like the management is of a place. And the goal is to essentially have everybody put that pressure on them and be like, you can either choose to get entirely new staff, which is a lot of money to spend, or you can give us what we want.
Yeah, but the issue with, say, like dancing is that would really only work for bar staff.
Probably, yeah.
It would really
I was gonna say, unless everybody was in on it, like bar staff, and although again, like contractor situations.
It's independent contractor, independence licensure. And in some cases, I've heard rumors of like the building owner or like the person who owns the club like pulling dancers' licenses just to be a dick. So
yeah, like that could happen mainly because it is like a lot of dance places are those contract-esque places.
Yeah, but if we could figure it out, it'd be great.
I was gonna say, you could probably do it as like how somebody said local 69. Yeah, it would be like a local union. You would have to like work with like all the girls at all of the clubs in town and work together to get these like standardized ideas to the club owners. Which it depends on how like realistic you're being with it. I would say like for the best part would probably be like guaranteed minimums for a night.
New goal in life, establish a dancers union.
I was gonna say, it's just exotic dancers union. Number one, guaranteed minimums for a night. So like,
my biggest thing, just per experience, wouldn't necessarily be minimums. It would more so be like set house fees and things like that.
Oh, I was thinking like house fees and stuff would make sense, but that would probably be part of your guaranteed minimum.
Yeah, like set house fee. Probably an allotment of beverage that was like standard across the board. I think I would like to see like provisions of like the knee pads and stuff that we used for like dancing and things like provided in the locker room. Yeah, like Hectic said, like a group pool.
Yeah.
For our money, things like that. I don't want to talk about it too much. I don't want to get your channel in trouble.
If we're talking about labor unions, go ahead, Twitch, ban me.
Okay. Are you going to be a union buster, John Twitch?
This is Clancy. I'm going to come get you on Twitter.
No, don't go to Twitter. That's the bad place.
I know, but it's the best way to get an answer from him. Anyway, trains.
Trains.
Question personally for Mapleton and exactly what had happened.
All right, what did you do, no chin haver bastard?
What did you do,
Why is the moon
LaFloy?
chasing these people down the
20
tunnel?
miles away, a railway
LaFroy.
plate
She
man
wanted
was
to go on a
walking with
train
his nephew
too.
through Balcombe Tunnel.
Choo,
Thomas Jennings was employed to inspect
ominous
and maintain
train
the tracks.
noises.
With a Napa lamp to light the way. Jennings
A
walked
Napa
the length
lamp?
of the soot-black tunnel,
Vegeta.
eyes peeled for any damage or obstruction.
Vegeta.
At around 4 p.m.
You could look. I don't think I have a monocle.
They saw.
Can you locate a monocle PNG
lying by the side of the track, and initially thought that something had been thrown out of a train window.
No, I don't
They
have
get
anything.
closer,
The glasses I had
and
for
they
2.0 will
realize
do in the future.
It's a body.
He was obviously
Oh,
dead.
I found a
They
corpse.
Found some
A corpse in the
correspondence
tunnel.
with his
A corpse in the
name
tunnel.
on, and so they could identify him.
The dead man was Frederick Isaac Gold. He
Gold.
was 64
Gold.
years
Gold.
old and lived with his wife
Marnopoly.
Lydia just a few hundred yards from
I'm Marin
Preston Park
Moneybags.
Station. On the 27th
Marin
of June,
Moneybags.
Gold had left home
If
early
only I
and
was
caught
as
the
rich as
8:45
Mr. Moneybags from Monopoly.
Brighton to London
Goodness.
Bridge.
If only I had a monopoly on some sort of industry,
It was
maybe
a
water
regular
industry or
trip that he
something. I could say,
He
I don't know,
had
perhaps that it's not a human right?
Preston Park. He had spent
Don't be a
long and
Nestle.
successful career
Don't be a Nestle.
as a master
Don't be a
baker. He'd had
Nestle.
a series of shops that
Ooh.
in his early 60s he'd sold off.
Bread.
But he keeps one shop
Bread.
on because he looks on this as potentially as being something which he could hand on to his 14-year-old nephew.
He
Oh.
was not running it.
Oh,
on
that's
a
cute,
day-to-day
actually. Thinking
basis,
even to
but
like extended
he
family to be like,
still
you can inherit my
maintained
baking
an
shop.
interest. He was still
Yeah.
the big boss, and so he would
The
go
big
up,
boss.
check that things were well.
Yes, Nightmare Angel, what can I do
inspect
for you?
the takings,
Young.
and take them home with him.
That morning, there were
bread.
£38, 5 shillings and a penny. And Gold deposited the money at his bank in Whitechapel.
That's a pretty good amount.
and
That would
prepared
probably
for the
pay off
trip.
all of his debts if
Just
he
before 2
didn't
p.m.,
fucking shatter his own
he took a
psyche.
seat in a first-class
Yeah.
compartment on the Brighton Express.
Oh no.
A Freddo? What's a Freddo? Freddo D's
2
nuts.
hours after Gold boarded the train in London, his body was found in Balcombe Tunnel.
From a
The fall from the train.
I thought that
had
said
inflicted
skeleton for a
terrible
second. I had to
injuries.
read.
Gold's skull
Skeleton?
was crushed.
From a
And his
skeleton.
leg gashed open. But he'd been through an ordeal even before that. A bullet was found in his spine, and the doctors counted 14
Oh,
different
no.
knife wounds on his body.
14 stab
Frederick Gold had
wounds.
suffered a vicious assault.
99%
But the discovery in the
stress.
tunnel didn't
Oh,
reach
dear.
Brighton immediately. There, police were wondering what to do with this strange
Wait a
young
second,
man
this murder
who
has
got
nervous
off the
breakdown
train
from
at
it. Is this
Preston
crime and
Park.
punishment? No.
No.
Because
this is
of his
British men.
bloodstained appearance, they got him taken to hospital and cleaned up. And in fact, the doctors at the hospital sort of clarified that actually he only had very superficial scratches. He didn't have any serious injuries at all.
What they think is that Lefroy had expected to make away with himself in a state of temporary insanity and was still suffering from that.
They gave him to Detective
I'm in a
Sergeant
temporary
George
state of
Holmes
insanity that I
to
am definitely
accompany
still
back
suffering
to
from.
his
Okay.
Please help! I can't see out of my right
in
eye.
Wellington.
Where are we?
Lefroy boarded
Ah.
the 6:10 train
Hi, O'Hare.
for London.
O'Hare.
When the train
O'Hare.
stopped at Balcombe Station,
O'Hare.
the detectives heard about the man found dead
Oh.
in the tunnel. But they didn't suspect
I missed it
Lefroy.
earlier. They said it, but I forgot. How
At
long
East
was the
Croydon,
tunnel?
They received a telegram
21
asking them to check the
something?
serial number of the watch spotted in Lefroy's
I remember
shoe.
21.
The number Lefroy gave didn't match the watch. But still, the police did
Oh.
not suspect him.
The gas.
The
How they
real
was about to
mistake
have fun
is
then.
made by Holmes, who has clearly been lulled into a
Mass
sense
crime?
of
I don't
false
think so. I think he's too stupid to be able to do that.
Lefroy seriously.
Thinking of him as a potential suicide, the police tended to treat him with sort of kid gloves, and they were quite sympathetic to him. George Holmes.
Oh, he was like 18 at the time.
knows that a dead body has been found. Knows that
I keep looking at him because he looks so much older than 18. I'm like, this man's like 28.
Suspicious.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, carries on to Croydon with him, takes a cab.
Who
and
carries
takes
on to
him his
Croydon?
address
Nobody.
in Wallington.
Nobody.
Nobody.
After taking a written
Nobody.
statement, the officer wished Lefroy a
Nobody.
good night. The detective walked around the corner to Wallington Station. An urgent telegram.
Listen, they
was
said that was
waiting for him
Cathcart,
there.
but looking at the map,
It
that was
said
Belmont.
Lefroy was not
You're
to be
lying.
let out of his sight.
Like a
The policeman
liar.
hurried back to the house in Cathcart Road.
To the
He'd
townhouse.
not been gone 10 minutes.
Away.
But Percy Lefroy Mapleton had vanished.
The police
He's the
investigation
liar!
completely bungled at this
Liar.
point. It was pretty clear that he was the main murder suspect. He'd been effectively in police custody, and the police had let him go.
Okay.
Police scoured the country for Lefroy. Detectives could find no photograph of their fugitive, and they
I was gonna say, he had
relied
plenty of
instead on a
money to
drawing
probably
by the
live off
owner
of
the
for like a
King's Arms
year.
in Carshalton. Lefroy had
That's
been
by
a
scamming.
regular there, and the
The
publican knew
fucking
him
the
well.
portrayals of this
The
man
sketch found
are
its way
just
to the
getting
I love
better.
how they.
On the
I
1st
love
of
how they
July,
exaggerate
it
it
was
more and more
published in
each
the Daily
time.
Telegraph.
You know.
This is the first time.
Someday I'd love
such
to
a
have
thing
I'd love to have an art
amplified
piece
with
of
the
me
full
like this
length
old
of
Victorian
the
newspaper
British mass
style.
media, which was described
Just because
Like
I've
a
always
around about
weirdly
the same
liked
time as
it.
the nerve center of the
Like the little
world.
cameo portraits.
We know that
Yeah.
in the first days
No maiden fight boom,
after
no train
publishing
ticket
of
fight
the
boom,
sketch,
no chin.
that it nearly sent the police
Wow.
pretty much across the country round the bend.
People thought they'd seen him or might
Not
have
the
seen
abridged
him
Alucard.
all over the country because
dear.
remember the Daily Telegraph.
That
in
was a
London,
70-inch
it's read in the
plasma
furthest
screen
flung
TV.
pockets of the country.
With Netflix.
One man was arrested on the mail train from Paddington to Devon.
So, how can I
It
help
turned out
you?
not to be the right man. One man was arrested in Shoebury Ness in Essex. Again, he was eliminated.
Somebody arrested in Essex. Who would have thunk?
Who would have thunk?
Like
Who hasn't been
Lefroy,
arrested in Essex?
or rather,
Well, I
like
haven't
that
been there,
drawing,
so I haven't been arrested there.
was likely to find
It's okay. You'll get
himself
arrested as soon as you get there.
being
No!
the focus of
I
very
simply
much
won't go.
unwanted attention.
Plasma screen TV license moment. You got a license for that
Lefroy
TV?
was, in fact,
Got a
still in
license for
London.
that TV, bruv.
After 3
Oi, oi.
days wandering the streets, he had found his way to a lodging house in Stepney. He pretended to be
Stepney.
an engraver from Liverpool,
British naming conventions.
newly arrived in the city.
An engraver?
He kept to his room, barely venturing out.
I wish he would have lies for like the skills that he actually had, but to this day, this man has not demonstrated an ounce of skill for any of the positions that he claims to have.
And yet he keeps getting away with it. Kind of.
It wasn't the first
Over here
time
teaching
the
chat how to be a good
21-year-old had
liar.
been
If
on
you're
the
going to
run
lie
from
about
the
being a
police.
thing, at least be
In
able to
1878,
pretend to
he
be
had
the thing.
posed as a
Base
you're gonna
some
pretend
of that lie
and
in
engaged
truth.
a company of actors to perform
A good lie
play
always has a
in
little bit of truth
Gloucester.
to it.
It seemed the 18-year-old Lefroy planned to abscond with the box office
Unlicensed
takings.
TV usage at the
But
carnival. We're going to have to send you to
when
the slammer and
company
confiscate your
arrived
showtime.
in Gloucester,
Shit, guys,
Lefroy
guess show's
was
over.
nowhere to be found. The play never went ahead.
All right, chat. It was a good talk. I guess we'll see you later. All right, later. Anyway.
And the furious actors began hounding Lefroy
Are they
for
gone?
compensation.
Are they gone? Have we made off like
When police
bandits?
began to take an interest in the affair, the
I
young
think
man
not, dear, but I
decided
do have
a
to
trip abroad
abscond. I
was
gotta go make a phone
advisable for his
call.
health.
All right, enjoy your phone call. Hopefully it's a good phone call. Phone calls are-
I asked beforehand, and it should be a good phone call. So yes.
Hell yeah. Have
So
a
it was
good
not
time.
about-
Thank you for hanging out.
Thank you for having. It was a really nice distraction. I really appreciated it.
Of course. Tuesday and Thursday are basically nothing but distractions.
They're good distractions. Have a good night, Marin. Bye, chat.
Later. All right, chat, she's gone. There's one thing you need to do now. You need to do exclamation mark Faye. There you go. Go check out Faye's YouTube channel if you haven't already. Put it on the background. Just mute the tab if you have to. Do all that jazz. She's just short a bit of watch hours. And her videos are plenty long. If you can't listen to them at this time, I do recommend listening to them later. I'm gonna pretend I didn't see that. It's fine. It's fine. Back to the train. Anyway.
In December 1878,
Tally ho, lads.
he left for Australia.
Australia? He's going to the penal colonies.
Now, he's obviously made some money out of this.
I just realized I
scam,
accidentally
because the man who
spit
is
on my
generally
primary
short of
monitor.
cash gets on this boat to Australia, and he's got some 40
Here, we'll
pounds
go
in
down
cash.
here.
I don't think he's
She'll
really
be
got
none the
any
wiser.
practical plans beyond that.
Anyway.
By the time he reaches Australia, he's lost £7 of it. But it says he lands in Australia. He's got a
£7
good
of what?
suit
The 380
and £32
something?
of cash. So for a time, he starts enjoying himself, goes to regattas, theatres, and he's enjoying himself and living quite comfortably. Then he suddenly realises that the money is running out.
I was going to say that he's just blowing through his money without
Lefroy wired
bringing
his
any
family
more
for
in.
more funds. Instead, they sent him a ticket home. By the end of September
Get
1879, he was back in England. He'd scorned the chance of a new start.
What a fucking idiot.
He's out of the country.
He also just
for
seemingly
about
abandoned the
nine
idea
and
of
a
going
half
after that
months.
ballerina.
And 4.5 months of that, he's in Australia. The rest of the time, he's travelling backwards and forwards between Britain and Australia.
He's learned
Jesus.
no lesson from that, except that.
How expensive was it to go from Britain to Australia? That's the other side of the fucking planet.
That offers them the possibility.
Why would
of
you want to
profit.
make that trip multiple times?
He returned to London and to his obsession with the young actress Violet Cameron. It was an obsession that would lead him to murder. But killing Frederick Gold had earned Lefroy little more than a few shillings and a gold watch.
I mean, is she still a ballerina dancer?
By the 7th of July,
If these are
after
later
10
pictures, she
days
doesn't
a
quite look
fugitive,
like. This is
he
gonna
was
sound
growing
mean. She doesn't quite
desperate.
look like she has the ballerina
He could not
physique
hide
anymore
forever. He had
that
to
they seem to
flee
portray that she
or
had
face
when she was
capture.
younger.
He composed a telegram and asked his landlady to send it. It was a secret message to his cousin Frank.
I thought you
Percy
only got
Lefroy
sent to Australia back in
Mapleton
those
was
days.
planning
No.
an escape.
That was being about probably 100 years before, maybe closer to 50 years. Between 50 to 100 years was like the window of
The
being
telegram
condemned to
that arrived at the
transport,
office of
of
Solicitor
being sent to
J.T.
Australia, being like a penal
was a
punishment.
confusing one. It was from a man calling himself Mr. Clark and requested his wages be delivered to an address in Stepney that evening. But nobody by that name worked at the office.
Okay.
And the last line of the telegram was even more baffling. Flower tomorrow, not 33. The telegram was intended for Frank Seal. Seal was a general copying clerk at the solicitor's office. He was also Percy Lefroy Mapleton's cousin.
He was stealing his own family's
I think
wages.
he's decided that he's not cut out for robbery, so he has to try something else.
This is a sort of a desperate way of trying to get in touch with.
How about
Frank
you do
to-
something that
for
actually
him
makes
to
money?
Come and see him and help him out with some money.
Me, totally not a hypocrite.
But if the telegram contained a coded cry for help, Seal didn't understand it.
Well, yeah, you can't just make up a code and then send somebody a coded letter and be like, oh, they'll figure it out.
Bringing the police straight to his door. The landlady at Lefroy's lodging house in Stepney had grown suspicious of her tenant. And on the 8th of July, she sent her daughter to J.T. Hutchinson's to find out more about the mysterious newcomer.
She's told that nobody of that name works there, but she
What is
then gets
J.T.
chatting with one
Hutchinson's?
of the clerks and tells the clerk of her mother's suspicions about their lodger. The clerk quickly realises who she's talking about, that it's Lefroy. And so that evening, after work, he goes to Scotland Yard, tells them where they can find Lefroy, and he gets the £200 reward.
Nice.
At 7:45 on the evening of the 8th of July, a cab pulled up outside the Stepney lodging house. Inside were 3 policemen. One guarded the front of the house, one the back.
That doesn't
and
look like
one
the same
went
person.
Inside. Percy Lefroy Mapleton was sat in his room upstairs. He denied the murder, but did not resist.
The like shocked look and the lean forward on him is not flattering.
He was tracked down.
Okay.
Because of his desperation for money, more than anything else.
Scotland Yard eventually arrested Percy Mapleton 10 days after the murder, and he was put on trial down at Maidstone Assizes.
Wait.
Lefroy's trial began.
Mapleton 10 days after Scotland Yard eventually arrested Percy Mapleton 10 days after the murder.
That doesn't make any sense. Didn't they say that he went to Australia after the murder? You can't go from the UK to Australia in 10 days. Wait.
And he was put on trial down at Maidstone Assizes.
All these sketches look like caricatures. Like, how do you even have even less chin than that? It's fine.
Lefroy told another version
But,
of
like,
the story he'd first told the ticket inspectors
on a steamboat, you can?
at
No, you
Preston
can't.
Park.
Not even a steamboat can get you. Heck was that? Can get you to and from Australia in 10 days. A steamboat may be better than a sailboat, but it is not fast enough to get you to and from Australia in 10 days. Plus, if he had like gone, I thought they said he like lived there a while. There's no way he like got to Australia, blew through his money in like one day, had enough time to send a wire to his family, who then had enough time to send him another wire back that also had a fucking ticket for him to come back to the UK on. Yeah, it was 6 months. It was 6 months before for the other guy to go from UK to New York. And did I say 6 months? I meant 6 weeks. 6 weeks. It'll take a week to just cross the Atlantic 20 years after this?
He was innocent. He'd been attacked by a mysterious countryman who robbed and murdered Frederick Gold, stuffed Mr. Gold's watch in Lefroy's shoe, and then jumped off a speeding train, never to be seen again.
Totally stuffed it in his shoe.
It was not a compelling defense.
Well, yeah, duh.
The defense could have argued for insanity, but because of Lefroy's insistence on
I don't think that's right.
being in the coach.
10 months, I could understand. I could understand if it was like 10 months.
It can't be argued.
But there's no way it was 10 days. Maybe that was a slip up.
Defense counsel commented that any time that he saw journalists paying attention to him, he seemed to preen, to respond. What he had attempted to do before appearing in the dock was redeem his evening clothes from pawn. He wanted to turn up in full evening dress in the dock.
He thought this would impress the jury. What he was allowed to have was his silk hat, which he had kept on the ledge in front of him, and he would often be toying with that or turning it and looking at it.
He spends much of the trial focusing on that, almost to the exclusion
of the hats
of anything else. He spends very little time responding.
He had no
to
attention span.
What is going on around him?
Lefroy was so convinced his story would be believed, he
Oh,
booked
good
a cab
Lord.
to whisk him away after his acquittal. But the jury didn't share his delusions.
That's hilarious.
After just 10
I'm
minutes
totally innocent. It's
deliberations,
totally fine.
They returned to court.
I have a
with
cab
verdict
waiting for me
of
outside,
guilty.
gentlemen.
Lefroy
Hi,
was
Dark King. How are you
sentenced to
doing?
death. Before he was taken away, he
Rip.
turned to the jury. Someday, when too late, he said, you will learn that you have murdered me. He was taken from Maidstone Crown Court to the prison in Lewes.
You
It was
charlatan
there
bastard.
He would face execution.
Execution
Lefroy
by...
had 3 weeks to live. At first, it seems he still believed
Ordain,
he
where
might
you running
escape
to?
his
Where you
fate.
running to, buddy?
He clung to his story about the murderous countryman. Then he tried to confess to another killing, hoping an investigation might postpone his execution.
Oh my God.
But the authorities dismissed his claims, as they did his solicitor's plea of insanity. As the end drew near,
That is one hell of a picture,
Lefroy
though. Look
looked
at that
back
dude.
his
His
short
forehead is
and
huge.
eventful life. He began to write.
Oh, finally, he starts to be a writer.
In prison is rather a bizarre but quite mesmerizing blend of fact, fiction, fantasy, outright lies, and earnest confession.
He describes his emotions.
Burning
his
energy, almost time for bed. I
sensations.
see.
He describes how he came to the desperate.
Charlton
and
implies
horrid
some degree of confidence. This
conclusion
guy's a disastrous
that
bungler. That's
He
true.
had no
I can
choice
see that completely.
but robbery. He makes himself almost the hero of an
Jesus.
adventure story.
He's packed his sentences full of drama, and it was beautifully overwritten and colourful. And
The more interesting this
garish,
is,
and
I
leapt out at you. He's still
I don't know about
trying to
interesting. It
leave a
sounds,
legacy,
it feels
still
almost
trying to
stupid.
Have some kind of monument,
Or at least,
to
like,
what had become
before he
sadly
seemed
rather a
stupid.
pitiful and murderous existence.
Huh.
In high-flown language, Lefroy told his story. A tangle
High-flown
of fact
language?
and fantasy that is hard even now to unravel. But he made one thing clear. He did kill Frederick Gold.
Okay.
He said that he had.
So he
been
admitted it
trying
in
to
his
steal
little
some
biography.
money.
That's fine. That
Frederick
makes sense.
Gold had put his handkerchief over his head and fallen asleep, and his purse had fallen down on the floor. And he could see there were some coins there. And he'd been tempted to pick them up, but as soon as he moved, Frederick Gold immediately jumped up and accused him of trying to steal his purse and his money from the floor.
Okay, so
He
that little like
indicates that
comic
he
looking thing
only
was also
turned
the
murder
version that
when
he
Gold
told.
fought back when he was taken by surprise.
I guess. I
And he
think that's what they're trying to
blurs
say.
The actual moment of Mr. Gold's disappearance out of the carriage. When the door opens, there is darkness, a scream, a yell. It conjures up the atmosphere, but we've not got specific details.
It showed absolutely no moral consciousness.
Because they no
of
remorse.
having done something wrong. And it's that aspect which really strongly comes across in the autobiography. That he is
But trying to
not
figure out
sorry
logistically how he would have made it
for
to and
what
from
he has
Australia has
done.
been the most interesting. Like, did he though?
Percy Lefroy Mapleton murdered Frederick Gold. And he did it for Violet Cameron. His obsession with the
That he
famous
never
actress
even got
remained
close to.
undimmed.
Not once.
From his condemned cell, he wrote to her. Soon he was telling his solicitor that she'd written back. Violet had forgiven him, he said, and even enclosed flowers for the poor or doomed man.
Okay.
The actress, of course, had done no such thing.
Because
Her
they, of
only
course she did,
response
but
to Lefroy came in a letter
what
to the
does that
Daily
matter?
Telegraph. She had never met him or exchanged words with him. She had no idea who he was. His delusions had made a thief
Ta-da.
of Percy Lefroy Mapleton.
But say there was
They
no
had
connection.
made him a murderer. And
He
on the
was
morning of the
just a
29th
weirdo.
of November 1881, they
I wonder
carried
if
him
he would
to the
consider
gallows.
him one of like the earliest like overly parasocial crimes. Okay. No. Bad. Okay, so this is like a bunch of them slapped together, but we are not, I'm gonna guess this is like the last one, but we are not gonna do the last one, guys. I do apologize. I am hungry. I wish to go get a burrito or something, but we will see. I will be back later tonight, actually. We're gonna be over at Emots. So let me do a quick shout out. We're going to be over at Emots later tonight. We're going to be playing Buckshot Roulette. I'm probably going to be having a little drink here and there because I do have some old stuff left in the fridge. But let me see who is live. Mira's playing something called Gothic. I don't know who Spicy Noodles is, but I have them open. M is doing just chatting. I think, didn't we raid M, was it Tuesday or was it Monday? Foundation. Let me see. Let me see. Insanity. You know what? Do we raid Cuppa? I can't think of the last time I caught a Cuppa stream, and Cuppa's currently playing Insanity. Yeah, we'll raid Cuppa. All right, guys. Let me think. What do we want to do for the raid message? What indeed? What indeed? Let me see. What do we have for emotes? We'll do the bricks. We'll do the bricks. And we'll just do the we're your problem now. All right, guys. Greatly appreciate it if you would throw the raid message once you get there. But until next time, thank you for being here. Thank you for being awesome. I will see you at Emots later tonight. If I don't see you over there, I will see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. CST, where I am going to be forced to play Hello Kitty Island Adventure. Okay, I'll see you guys later. Stay out of trouble. Have a good night.